that have gone out there against the mainstream media and said, you're going to call us racist? You're going to call us potential Timothy McVeighs? Fuck you. War.
Quite sure he's right. An obsessionally neurotic. Pretty dangerous, in fact.
Let us never tolerate outrageous conspiracy theories.
Do you mean you doubt your powers to convince him?
Say it! Say it!
All right, I'll say it.
Worse than that. What I'm afraid of is his power to convince me.
We're talking about putting a manifestly irresponsible man on national television.
Sweetheart, be reasonable.
War.
This is the end game.
All right. It is Wednesday, February 12th, 2025, the 24th day of the Golden Age. I'm your moderator, Chris Paul. Let's be reasonable. Welcome, everybody, to the Wednesday live stream for subscribers only. Thank you all very much, as always, for your support of my work, your support of the Substack, and welcome to the subscriber stream. Let's get right into it. We are in the middle of a constitutional crisis. And even within all that drama, somehow we find just these monumental wins, just nonstop winning, or so I'm told by the internet. Today, one of the most popular members of the fantasy team was confirmed by the illegitimate Senate to an office that should not exist. And I'm talking, of course, about Tulsi Gabbard. Today, Tulsi Gabbard, the most dangerous person to the deep state, was able to garner even the votes of Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins, thus avoiding the need for Mitch McConnell to even be functionally alive, and for the tiebreaker, JD Vance, to even be in the country. She made it through. Wow. Wow. Wait, hold on. I don't think I've used this before. Here we are. I didn't have this.
Wowie, wow, wow, wow.
That is Christopher Walken from Saturday Night Live, a character and a sketch called the Continental. I almost said Confidential. That would be terrible. I could never mess something like that up. He appeared as that character twice, two different episodes, two times of Christopher Walken hosting the Continental both times. Let's just make sure we've got.
Wow. Wowie, wow, wow, wow.
Now, Christopher Walken in that scene is pretending to be using a mirror on the ground to look up an unsuspecting lady's dress. So it's not nice, but it is funny. And wow. Tulsi Gabbard is the new director of national intelligence. I haven't done a Christopher Walken impression in a very long time. And back then it was not very good. So you get what you get. Let's go to this groundbreaking moment in America's political life. Here it is.
Tulsi Gabbard, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
I mean, whatever, you know how the rest of it goes. So apparently there's a new Ronald Reagan portrait in the Oval Office, and now Andrew Jackson is up high. The Reagan portrait looks like it could have been purchased at Spencer Gifts. I don't know what's going on there. Far be it for me to question Donald Trump's choice of portraits. I would never do such a thing. I would never do such a thing. So Tulsi Gabbard has been appointed to the position of Director of National Intelligence, and I've had some discussions on this today. And if you've been in my Telegram chat, you will understand that people are very, very angry that I don't like Tulsi Gabbard as much as they do. Here's the thing. I don't care about Tulsi Gabbard at all. Not one way or the other. I don't think she's good. I don't think she's bad. I don't care. I don't think she's hot. I don't think she's not hot. I don't care. I don't care that she's been on television. I don't care about any of it. I don't care that she said based and red-pilled things to Hillary Clinton or Kamala in old Democrat debates. Don't care. I don't care. Why? Because it doesn't matter. Okay, let's get into why it doesn't matter. I asked the machine, how did we come to get the position of Director of National Intelligence in this bloated, bureaucratic usurpation and abomination of the constitutional form? How in our illegitimate government did we ever get the position of Director of National Intelligence? How did we ever get so lucky as to have George W. Bush created this in 2004? In the wake of 9/11? So it's like the Patriot Act in the Department of Homeland Security. I get it. How did we ever get so lucky to have this position and then have Tulsi Gabbard there? Oh, the world may never find out. It's like getting to the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop. How did they do it? No one's ever going to know. By the way, the secret code is 3 licks, and then you just bite it off. Man, I didn't expect the show to begin this way. We just had Super Bowl licks. Whatever. What legislation created the position of DNI? The position of DNI was created by the Intelligence Reform and Terrorism Prevention Act of 2004. This legislation was signed into law by President George W. Bush on December 17th, you don't say 20 when it's that. It's just 2004. The act was passed in response to recommendations from the 9/11 Commission, which identified major intelligence failures, and called for reforms in the U.S. intelligence community. And so they created the Director of National Intelligence because what they realized was that the reason 9/11 happened, even though we had all those advance warnings, was because the intelligence community, they just weren't coordinating and talking to each other the right way. Shucks. Darn it. If only we had Tulsi Gabbard in there. My, those buildings would have still been standing. It was an intelligence failure, you see. The creation of DNI was intended to improve coordination and information sharing among the various intelligence agencies, as well as to provide a single leader for the entire U.S. intelligence community. And from that point on, the president's representative to the intelligence community, the Director of National Intelligence, was in charge of all of it. And so all of the intelligence agencies just did the work of the president and the American people and did not do a single thing to subvert the nation. Now, remember, this is 2004. And after that, at some point, there was like John Brennan and Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State. But Through it all, the Director of National Intelligence made absolutely certain that our intelligence community was working faithfully and patriotically on behalf of the American people. That is exactly how the history went down. Even though the machine doesn't say that, you can trust that it's true, because if it wasn't true, then Tulsi Gabbard wouldn't be so exciting. She is now directing our nation's intelligence, all of it. All intelligence that you can perceive in this nation, it's her. What are the criticisms, I said, of the DNI's powers? This is what I asked the machine. The Director of National Intelligence, created by the Intelligence Reform and Terrorism Prevention Act of 2004, has faced several criticisms regarding its powers and effectiveness. Limited executive authority. The DNI lacks direct control over the intelligence agencies it is supposed to lead, hampering its ability to enforce changes or enlist support for its mission. Restricted budgetary control. While the DNI is responsible for overseeing the national intelligence budget, it does not have full control over how the money is spent, limiting its ability to enact meaningful changes. Okay, so it doesn't really have direct control over any of the intelligence agencies, and it also does not have budgetary control, but it's got to be important. It says director right in the name. Ambiguous statutory powers. The language in the IRTPA and Executive Order 12333 grants the DNI few explicit authorities, leading to indeterminate powers and continued turf battles among agencies. Well, damn it, that's the problem it was supposed to solve. Lack of operational authority. The DNI's role is limited to creating and disseminating integrated intelligence products and funding certain programs without any operational authorities. Okay. Insufficient guidance on integrating foreign and domestic intelligence. The IRTPA provides little guidance or authority to the DNI on streamlining this process. Dependence on other agencies. The DNI has limited ability to deeply understand particular topics since it has few intelligence analysts working directly for it and relies on information derived from other agencies. Bureaucratic bloat. Some critics argue that the creation of the DNI has added an unnecessary layer of bureaucracy to the intelligence community. Now, that could be a deep state argument, to be fair. Conflicting responsibilities. The DNI has been criticized for having too much responsibility without commensurate power, particularly in relation to the Secretary of Defense, who still maintains significant control over several intelligence organizations. These criticisms highlight the challenges faced by the DNI in effectively coordinating and leading the U.S. intelligence community despite the original intentions of the intelligence reform efforts. So they had a committee to find out what happened in 9/11. And you got to understand that committee was not allowed to find out any of what actually happened in 9/11. What they did was gather all of the intelligence together, all of the information, all the data, all the evidence from everybody to make sure that it could not be used anywhere else. It was theirs because they had an ongoing investigation. And then eventually they decided what actually happened. And they told the public in like a 1,000-page report. Here's exactly what happened. And to this day, we don't know, which is why in a second we're going to get to Paulina Luna telling us that we still don't know and that she's going to actually release what really happened. You see, the 9/11 Commission was like this other commission, the Warren Commission, that investigated the JFK assassination. And it turns out after 50 years, 60 years, we still don't know what happened then too, or either, or whatever. So we have these commissions to tell us exactly what happened, and then they will give us their advice on what needs to be done, because these are congressional commissions. And the reason you have a congressional commission is to advise Congress on what sorts of legislation they can pass to make sure that this massive problem that we've had will never happen again. Now, so far, we can see that those commissions have completely failed. They did not get the public the truth. They did not stop incidents like that from happening again. And not only in America, we heard that in 2023 on 10/7, the paragliding go-kart incident was actually Israel's 9/11. How about that? We have our entire intelligence community set up to operate with our Israeli partners and our Five Eyes partners, of course, which are not Israel, even though it's all the same thing. And somehow a 9/11 happened there too. And we didn't figure it out in either place. And our intelligence community still can't coordinate that information. And so we have the DNI because that was the problem. They weren't communicating. And now they're still not communicating. And we still don't know the truth of 9/11. And we still don't know the truth of JFK. But now we have Tulsi in there. And what she's going to be able to do, you don't understand. See, this is what you don't understand. I'm going to lay it down to you in the way that I've been told it by other people who are totally guessing. She's going to be able to get all that intelligence from all of those intelligence agencies. She's going to tell us what's happening. And that also is what Paulina Luna yesterday said that she was going to do. And in fact, we'll divert just a little bit to Paulina Luna. Here she is yesterday.
Help of the White House, our intelligence allies, the Department of Defense, the Department of Justice, we will be conducting investigations into the following: the assassinations of JFK, RFK, and Dr. Martin Luther King, unidentified aerial phenomena, also known as UAPs, unidentified submerged objects, also known as USOs, the Epstein client list, the origins of COVID-19, and the 9/11 files. This task force will be a beacon of bipartisanship. On the Republican side, Representatives Burchett, Boebert, Burleson, Crane, Gill, and Mace will be joining me, although I'd like to note that I'm expanding this to the entire governing body and will be allowing certain members to waive.
Whatever. I guess that's where the clip cuts off. She went on and on. James Comer was standing right behind her like, yeah, cool. And please don't perceive this as any kind of personal attack against Paulina Luna or Tulsi Gabbard. Again, I don't care. But let's talk about what this actually is, okay? We're about to get all of the greatest secrets from the U.S. government that they have been holding back from us for, in some cases, 2 decades, in some cases, 6 decades, and in some cases, I guess, longer. I mean, who knows how long we've had aliens around? We're going to get them from an Instagram chick with fake lips. And maybe that's just me and my history of being in Hollywood that makes that sort of presentation seem totally unreliable to me. And maybe I'm being superficial, and that's fine. All right. So I'll take those criticisms if those are your criticisms. And otherwise, I will still continue to wonder why it would possibly ever be happening this way. By the way, why do we need Congress? Right? Why do we need Congress? Donald Trump is the plenary authority on declassification. As the president, he can just release the information. People can get it. Why do we need a new committee to tell us what happened? And my good buddy, John Harold, talked about this on his show today, making that point. I think he made it very well. That was not my main point. That's his point. Let's look at Paulina Luna. I had never paid attention to her very much. I know that she's the new based and red-pilled firebrand, and she's like sort of hot, which means for a politician, she's super, super hot. And then everyone can be like grovel, grovel, grovel. Oh my God, she's so hot. Whatever she says is fine by me. Paulina Luna, nay, Mayerhofer. Wait a second. Later, Gamberski. What? Spouse, Andrew Gamberski. Okay, so she's Anna Gamberski. Anna Paulina Gamberski, but Anna Gamberski is her name. So it's not Anna Paulina Luna Instagram chick. It's Anna Gamberski, illegitimate Congress member. Meyerhofer, first name. Okay, she's an American politician, Air Force veteran. Well, that's cool. Florida, and we're told Florida has really good elections, but do they? Of course not. Born May 6th, 1989. She's like 35. Cool. We want young people, right? How about that? She joined Turning Point USA. All right. So she was one of Charlie Kirk's college chicks. I mean, why would you join Turning Point as, I don't know, she graduated from University of West Florida in 2017. That would have been 28. So at some point after that, she joined Turning Point. Okay, well, whatever. So it's weird if 30-year-olds are joining Turning Point, but okay, maybe we want our young adults to get involved in Turning Point politics. Whatever. She supported Jim Jordan and Byron Donalds for Speaker of the House, and that makes her very, very based and red-pilled because Donald Trump didn't support either of those people for Speaker of the House. So she opposed Trump on that, and the marketing for all the people who opposed Trump about his speaker picks, first Kevin McCarthy and then Mike Johnson, definitely based and red-pilled. Freedom Caucus, her views have been identified as conservative, and she has called herself a pro-life extremist. She was raised, it says, as a Messianic Jew by her father in Santa Ana, California. Okay. Now, all good. I have friends who are Jewish. I know lots of people who are Jewish. Some of them are good people. Some of them are not good people. Some Jewish people in general are good people. Some are not. Good twin, evil twin in everything, right? We can't go just on that, but it's just kind of strange if your original first name is Meyerhofer and your second last name is Gamberski, to call yourself Luna. Her mother was of Mexican American ancestry, but her mother was named Monica Todd, and her dad, of course, George Meyerhofer. Her grandparents, though, that's different. Her grandfather was drafted into the Wehrmacht during World War II. How? Wait a second. Her grandfather's Jewish, right? Meyerhofer? Huh. I guess we're never going to figure that one out. And just the last thing here. And again, I worked in nightclubs, so it's not like I'm saying I'm better than this. I'm just saying, briefly worked as a cocktail waitress in a gentleman's club, and then later gained a following as an Instagram influencer. I know that people took that when I called her an Instagram chick as some kind of slight. And I did mean it that way, but it's also because it's true. So that's the person who is going to let us know the greatest secrets that the United States government has ever possessed and has held back from us. I found that just a little bit strange. And, you know, maybe I'm strange. I'm a conspiracy theorist after all. I have been told all day long that I guess I'm a jerk or something. Maybe I'm being a jerk right now. I don't know. It's impossible to tell. When you're actually a jerk, you just can't tell that you're doing it, you know? I also get told that I keep a hive mind and don't allow for other opinions. And I always get told that by people who are telling me that the TV is actually right this time. They're like, no, the authoritative source has this one right. And you are disputing the authoritative source because you're a jerk. And I don't know, somehow I guess anti-Trump or something. Okay. I wrote this today on Substack because I was so overwhelmed by the reaction to the point I was making. I made some of this point a couple weeks ago about Tulsi Gabbard. So I'm not going to go all the way through it again. And again, I don't care about Tulsi Gabbard. And you'll see that at the end of this piece. But I put this pic right up front. This is what we talked about, how Meghan McCain posted that she and all of these people who are part of the info op went to attend Tulsi Gabbard's confirmation hearing. Team Tulsi with my free thinking sisters, House and Habit, Sage Steele, Danica Patrick, and then two people I've never heard of. Sage Steele used to be on ESPN. She's very based in red-pilled. Danica Patrick, she was a female NASCAR driver, which means she's automatically based in red-pilled. House and Habit is on Instagram and totally just exposing the shit out of Epstein and P. Diddy. It's very based in red-pilled. Questioning the fantasy team, I called all this. Is there at least some chance that not every single one of President Trump's picks for the fantasy team are the absolute best possible people to take office and do whatever job that office requires on behalf of Trump, MAGA, and the American people? Let's see. First, many of the positions to which he has nominated people should not and or cannot constitutionally exist. And of course, D&I would be one of those. There's no reason for it to exist. Okay. And it's part of some package that was passed as part of the "we have to change everything after 9/11" movement. So should it exist? No. Obviously, no, because of where it came from. It is a position that is obviously rotten to the core and its roots. And that, by the way, is not a slight on Tulsi Gabbard, nor is it a slight on John Ratcliffe, who served in that position before. But the position was created by the deep state to protect the deep state. The idea that it's going to be the position to turn the deep state inside out in the person of someone who is a Fox News television character seems a little bit suspect, but maybe I'm wrong. And I'm totally happy if I am wrong. I would love for all of the TV show to produce all of the results I keep getting told for years and years on end that it's about to produce. Okay? Maybe it's all wonderful, but the position should not exist. And as we just saw, it doesn't really have very much power. So Donald Trump appointed Tulsi Gabbard to a position of very little power that should not exist in our government to begin with. And hey, I don't know what that means. All I know is that she was just sworn in by Attorney General Pam Bondi. Another position that probably should not exist. We should not have a Department of Justice. We should not have an organization whose job it is to go out and enforce a federal code of law. Why? Because we shouldn't have a federal code of law. The states have laws that cover all the crimes we might commit, except those supposedly against the federal government. Well, what kinds of crimes could you commit against the federal government if the federal government was anything like the founders conceived it to be? And the answer is there's very few of those, like treason, for instance, maybe espionage, but not like your lobster cage is 2 inches too short. And that's what the Department of Justice does. And for a very simple, easy, light read on all of that, check out Neil Gorsuch's book, Overruled. It's a very good book to have. It's a very good introductory book to that problem. Let me say that. And Neil Gorsuch seems like a good and nice man. And I don't know which side we will ultimately believe Neil Gorsuch comes down on. I think he's a good, nice man. I hope he's a good, nice man, but I don't know that for sure. Okay, let's continue. Their positions should be removed by Trump, appointing someone we know virtually nothing about, but nonetheless like, is not an acceptable second option when a position or agency or department should not exist. And by the way, this is going to really upset people, but that is also true of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. There should not be a Department of Health and Human Services. If he's going in there to take it down and to expose what it has done, fine. If he's going in there to run it more efficiently, not fine. Same thing, by the way, with Kash Patel at the FBI. We do not need a federal bureau of investigation and should not have a federal bureau of investigation. And that is not a slight on Kash for me to say that. In some cases, as with Linda McMahon, Trump has made it explicitly clear that her job is to eliminate her job. Secretary of Education, after dismantling the department, which should and must be removed. Now, I know we played this the other day on the show. Let's do it again, just to hear what Trump had to say about that.
I nominate Linda McMahon to be the Education Department Secretary if you're going to get rid of the Education Department.
Because I told Linda, I hope you do a great job and put yourself out of a job. I want her to put herself out of a job, Education Department. So we're ranked number 40 out of 40 schools, right? We're ranked number 1 in cost per pupil. So we spend more per pupil than any other country in the world. And we're ranked at the bottom of the list. We're ranked very badly. And what I want to do is let the states run schools. I believe strongly in school choice. But in addition to that, I want the states to run schools. And I want Linda to put herself out of a job.
So do you think that's something you can do with an executive order? Or are you going to ask Congress to do it?
I'd like to be able to. Look, if I could give the schools back to Iowa and Idaho and Indiana and all these places that run properly, there's many of them. I think so.
All right. That's enough of a reminder, I believe. So he's sending Linda McMahon in to the Department of Education specifically to take apart the Department of Education, because the Department of Education should not exist. He's giving the responsibilities of the Department of Education back to the states where they belong. And the states can make their own policies about education, unless the people decide they don't want the state making policy about education, and then the state can't make policy about education. That's how it works. The people delegate their authority to the states, and the states collectively delegated their authority in certain realms to the federal government. And since they did that, the federal government has usurped all the power from the states and from the people to the point where they believe they can appoint officers to go out and arrest the people for crimes they make up. And now we are cheering on the bureaucrats who are going to take those positions to usurp the authority and power of the people and use it against us. And we're all like, oh my God, she's so hot. We're going to be here forever. We're going to be stuck here forever if we continue to listen to these people. A Senate whose members cannot prove their own legitimacy in office cannot legitimately confirm nominees to Trump's administration, and there's at least some argument that he doesn't need them to. There are people fulfilling many duties in acting roles already. So that should kind of matter, right? Can the senators prove their legitimacy? No, they can't. So why are we applauding our illegitimate representatives as they confirm the power over us of people who can't even tell the truth in their nomination hearings? Why is that? Why is that okay? Why is that something we should applaud? Why should we think that the people telling us to applaud that are on our side, not the enemy's side? And I don't want to go too hard on that, because many of my friends, not my friends, but many of the people in the broader truth community are pushing the idea that it is winning when the TV tells us, oh, this bureaucrat is confirmed. Now she has official power over you. That position doesn't even have official power over the intelligence community, and it's called Director of National Intelligence. We are supposed to applaud this. Why? Applauding it supports the idea that the position is valid, that the Senate confirming the nomination is valid, and that the person taking the position is on our side, when none of those things are true, or at least we don't know them to be true. Again, you'll see later. Maybe Tulsi's great. There's just no reason to believe it now, but let's continue. Then there's the example of Morgan Ortagus, Trump's appointee as ambassador to Lebanon, of whom he wrote in the Truth Social announcement of her nomination, which you can see on screen, Early on, Morgan fought me for 3 years, but hopefully has learned her lesson. These things usually don't work out, but she has strong Republican support, and I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing it for them. Let's see what happens. Oh, so she's not actually Trump's pick for this position. She's a pick that people recommended and pushed for. Trump said in no uncertain terms that this was a selection for the Republican establishment. It is historically common for presidential appointments to be the product of horse trading. Here we have an admission of that and an expression of doubt that the move will be successful. Is that just for posturing? Maybe. Impossible to know. Trump knows what he's doing. I don't know what he's doing. The people writing media articles don't know what he's doing. If you guys know what he's doing, please by all means tell me. But I doubt that any of us do. He's saying he's giving this particular pick to the Republican establishment. This one's not for me. This is for them. I don't even like this person that much. I'm not sure how this is going to work out. This one's for them. Now, is that leverage for her dealings with Lebanon and Israel and whatever other situations she faces in the Middle East? Maybe. I don't know Morgan Ortagus. I'm not trying to say anything bad about Morgan Ortagus. I'm trying to think about how we should think about this. Then there's the case of Chad Chronister, whose appointment lasted for a matter of hours. Chronister withdrew his name, and Trump responded that Chronister didn't pull out. I pulled him out because I did not like what he said to my pastors and other supporters. So this was that Florida sheriff who was shutting down churches during COVID and making all sorts of statements. All of that would have been available before Trump nominated him. Trump nominated him anyway, and then the nomination was withdrawn. Maybe by Trump, maybe by Chronister. Trump says it was him. All good. So at minimum, we have Trump picks to faithfully serve. And we can assume that some of the picks in there are already faithfully serving. Or at least we can hope that. We don't actually know that. And we should be honest about what we do and don't know. But let's hope that that's true. I like Russ Vought. I think that he's probably a loyal and faithful public servant looking to do good things in America. But I don't know it to be true. I just think it's true, and I hope it's true. But I understand that I might be wrong. Picks whose job it is to eliminate their own job or agency. That's the Linda McMahon example. We understand that's definitely a thing that happens because we've seen it happening. Picks that are rescinded for ostensibly their low quality. That's the Chronister pick. So we know that that's happening. Are there other picks who might be of low quality? Picks by someone other than Trump for unknown reasons. That's the Morgan Ortagus pick. Is that the only one of those or the only one that Donald Trump told us about? I assume it's the second because the horse trading thing is always ongoing and Trump is always in mid-negotiation. So if he needs something from a given party and he has to give them something they want in order to get the thing he wants, well, maybe he's going to give that to them. And then maybe down the road, he changes his mind and whoever's in that position is removed from the position. We've seen this stuff already. We've already seen the first go round, and then we saw the pause term in the middle. We should know how these machinations work. And of course, then there's a category of picks made of people that are entirely unknown by us for reasons that are entirely unknown by us. Okay? Trump probably nominated 150 people that he announced on Truth Social. Maybe it's more, maybe it's slightly less. I think it's probably around 150. But even if it's 100 or whatever, we don't know all of those people. The TV hasn't made a big deal telling us about these people or about how scared the liberals are or the deep state is of this person getting to power. Most of them we don't have stories about. And the ones we don't have stories about, you know what the problem is? You see, the thing is, all the quote unquote truthers, all those really based and red pilled total MAGA normies and Q normies who cheer all day long for Tulsi and Cash and RFK Jr., well, they never dig into the other 100 appointees and put the research up about them. Why is that? Isn't that strange? So we have all these people that are being appointed and they're about to serve in the Trump administration, and no one in the community knows anything about them. Now, I haven't gone through all of them either because I don't have time to do everything. And I know that those other people don't either. So I'm not even implying ill intent. I'm just saying, like, let's not pretend that we know everything about these people, because the ones that we're pretending to know everything about just happen to be the ones that are on Fox News all the time. In fact, they're all Fox News characters. Pete Hegseth, literally a Fox News character. Brooke Rollins, Fox News character. Sean Duffy, Fox News character. Tulsi Gabbard, Fox News character. You just keep on going down the list. There's like 30 of them. Leo Terrell. Just like he was taking like second and third tier Fox News characters, just taking them off the Fox News roster, sticking them in the administration for positions that shouldn't exist and constitutionally can't exist, positions with virtually no power at all. But we're like, hey, congratulations, you can totally rule over us now. There's an entire category of Trump appointees who no one's looked into. We know nothing about them, and we have no idea about the reasons why Donald Trump might have picked them. And we just think, oh, they've got to be good. Otherwise, Trump wouldn't pick them. Well, wait a second. That's not true. Based on all these things we just said, there are other options. And the most important option to understand is actually that last one. If we don't know who the person is, we don't know anything about them. And we have no idea why they were chosen. And that's the majority of cases. Then why are we defaulting to assuming that Donald Trump, as part of this grand plan that no one's actually privy to, he did this because this is the perfect right person to do this job in a way that's going to help the American people more than they've ever been helped? Understanding this, why should we default to assuming that a given pick is being made for the first reason, while knowing that the pick is to fill a job that should not constitutionally exist by senators who cannot prove their own legitimacy, as though the government is operating in some state of normalcy? It isn't, and it really isn't. We are in a post-constitutional period, and people have to really genuinely understand what that means. We probably have some form of military government in operation right now, and I would suggest to you that Donald Trump is the only person in the federal government, the only quote unquote elected official in the federal government who would be approved of by the founders, for whom the founders would say, yes, it is clear that the will and mandate of the American people is behind this man being president. I cannot imagine the founders being okay with anyone in the House or anyone in the Senate purporting to hold public office when you cannot prove your legitimacy in that office is definitionally treason. And at some point, we're going to have to like really own that. Okay. Now it's all fine and good if this is just a charade and we're just seeing this stage play as it plays out. And we all get to just clap and grovel and say, ha, ha, ha. Oh, libs' heads are exploding. Let's drink their tears. Otherwise, what are these people doing? It's entirely possible that giving power back to you, the people, means systematically disposing of each and every one of the Uniparty's next generation of rising stars, whose attachment to the system makes it impossible for the people to seize that power. And I maybe should have said for themselves. Okay. So we saw this throughout the fake primary process. We saw people like Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley and Vivek Ramaswamy and the rest of them, all these people who had been pushed to the fore by the mainstream media and the GOP establishment and elite for years and years. We saw them get their chance in front of a national audience, and every one of them face planted. Trump took all their little stars, from Fox News and from wherever else they're hatching them. And he put them all on the national stage. And he said, hey, MAGA, what do you think about these people? And what MAGA said, what the American people said is, oh, yeah, these people suck. Ron DeSantis basically destroyed his political career. Now, if that's part of the stage play, all good. We don't have to hate these people. We don't have to assume they're all enemies. Maybe they're just there playing their part and all good. He's destroyed all of the rising stars of the Democrat Party. Which Democrat rising stars, which serious national Democrats could possibly ever become a believable president in America at this point? I would suggest to you that absolutely zero of them have that possibility, which is why when you see the Democrats on television now, you're getting these super old ones who are just hanging on for dear life like Maxine Waters and Chuck Schumer, or you're seeing all the brand new ones trying to establish themselves by being as based and red-pilled as possible. Look at this. Actually, I'll give you a perfect example so that we don't have to, so you don't have to take my word for it. Here is some guy named Robert Garcia from California. This is today in the Doge committee hearing, because it wasn't good enough to just have Doge. MTG, another TV character, had to stand up a committee that she could lead to talk about what Doge is doing from a congressional perspective. Look at this guy. And the guy next to him, by the way, with the beard, he's one of their new stars as well. I don't know his name. These people are worthless. So why bother acquainting ourselves with them? These people are not going to hold any power in any legitimate American government at any point. So, they're just also rans. These are faces on television.
Medicare and Medicaid. And we should not stand by as the richest man on the planet gives himself and his companies huge tax cuts while the American people get absolutely nothing. Now, I find it ironic, of course, that our chairwoman, Congresswoman Green, is in charge of running this committee. Now, in the last Congress, Chairwoman Green literally showed a dick pic in our oversight congressional hearing, so I thought I'd bring one as well. Now, this, of course, we know is President Elon Musk. He's also the world's richest man. He was the biggest political donor in the last election. He has billions of dollars in conflicts of interest.
Oh, yeah, you get it. MTG showed a dick pic, and this is a picture of a dick. It's Elon Musk. He's a dick. Oh, we're calling him President Musk still. And you saw the bearded guy next to him. That's the leader of the Progressive Caucus, I think. Just a young male progressive. Oh, he's going to be like a movie star in Democrat politics. I can't wait to see how much he's on MSNBC. So this is how they're trying to create their new breed of stars, because they watched, quote unquote, the right do that with MTG and with Paulina Luna and all the rest of the based and red-pilled MAGA characters from last season. Right? Tim Burchett, the UFO guy. Oh, we're going to find out all the UFO secrets. Thanks, Tim. Tim needs to regrow his mutton chop sideburns before I take him seriously again. And honestly, I know that everybody's like, these are our new best friends. How can you say these things? But no, they're not. They're television characters serving in an illegitimate government body, pretending to hold power over you while operating on behalf of the Uniparty that got them elected in the first place. Now, if there's something behind the scenes going on where they're all Donald Trump's especially chosen television characters, well, then by all means, call me wrong. Oh, I was being too cautious and not just trusting the plan hard enough. That's me, never trusting the plan hard enough. So is Donald Trump eliminating the entire next generation of rising stars? I believe that's what he's doing, but you can believe your own thing. Maybe he's just putting these people up because we're going to fall in love with them. Which ones so far have we fallen in love with? Trump's been out and around in politics in 4 months, almost from today, in 4 months. It will be 10 years. Who is the heir apparent? Who is the young talent that's risen to the fore? We don't know. Nobody knows. I don't think anybody knows. I mean, I watch this stuff all the time. I don't know. Do any of you know which one of these characters is actually capable of leading? I had high hopes for Matt Gaetz, and maybe there's something with Matt Gaetz, but he's nowhere now. He's hosting a show on OANN. I think that my show is probably more impactful than Matt Gaetz' show. That should not happen. I got a little tiny show. Oh, man. Whether or not that's happening, it's certainly true that if the people expect to take an active role in self-governance, giving the power back to authorities is not the way to go about it. Okay? Donald Trump is the best authority. That doesn't mean that because Donald Trump says that person's the good person, and we should grovel before that person and not question whether or not that person is something that someone that we, the people, want to give our power to. Still our choice. We delegate power to Donald Trump. We delegate power to the congressman. We delegate power to the senators. That's our power. We decide as the people collectively. Unless we decide that we're not going to decide, because the TV is going to decide. We know that Tulsi's good because she makes liberals' heads explode. Why are we told to be happy with whatever is chosen and applaud? Because the TV has shown us liberal heads exploding. And another question is, why are the truthers telling us to do that? Why are the people demanding our full committed grovel, simultaneously proclaiming to be, quote unquote, the news now? And also certain that John Bolton or Mike Pompeo or Mike Pence or whoever betrayed Donald Trump and were evil all along. If you think that Mike Pence right now is evil for not overturning the stolen election, and you think JD Vance is good because Donald Trump would have never put a bad person that close to him in a position with that much power, I'm not your problem. Maybe Tulsi Gabbard is one of the most competent, most patriotic Americans to ever walk the face of the earth. And her friendship with Uniparty traitor John McCain's Trump-deranged, MAGA-hating daughter transcends these important differences. Maybe the other people in Uniparty-friendly TV and social media info ops, the ones in the picture above, attending Gabbard's confirmation hearing with McCain really are our best friends. Maybe there's nothing weird about so many selections for the fantasy team being former members of the cast of Fox News or of Tucker Carlson's TV show that is, once again, owned by the Murdochs. Maybe these oddities can be explained away as, with everything else, a chance to wake up the normies. Or maybe there's something more going on. In that case, it would be irresponsible for people committed to self-governance to assume that the most charitable possible position is the correct one without seriously weighing any other options. And if people weighed other options, like, hey, maybe Tulsi Gabbard is not our new best friend, or maybe RFK Jr. is not our new best friend. Regardless, it is beneath the principles of our founding to cheer as politicians who cannot prove their own legitimacy give permission to bureaucrats to hold power over the people in offices those founders would see as abominable, presuming the bureaucrats' appointments to be the perfect product of a plan that we are not privy to. I don't know about you guys, but I am sick of being told that we have to trust the plan by people who have no idea what the plan is and who are continually wrong about basically everything. Fog of war, okay? We are in a series of situations that are virtually impossible to discern. Nonetheless, it is our responsibility to discern them. And I don't want to get too far afield here, but if we think about our condition as humans in a deeper way, we are born into a situation that is a fog of war where all information that we get is unreliable and we still have to figure out how to guide ourselves for the entire time. This political situation is a microcosm of that. And if you are a Christian, if you believe in God, then doing as God commands is the best path forward. Now, we're all going to fail on that a lot. But one of the things that we can really try to do is be honest all the time and proceed in our judgments and decision-making from a place of honesty about what it is we know and what it is we don't know. And if you're going to tell me that you know that Tulsi Gabbard is a good person, who is definitely a patriotic American and going to do a great job in a government position that should not exist after being confirmed by people who cannot prove their own legitimacy, I'm going to say you're lying. Okay. And all I'm trying to do here is not lie about that fact. And once we get to the point of being honest about that fact, then we can say, okay, well, I can trust Trump's judgment and understand that one way or another, he has something he is trying to accomplish here. And I'm going to trust his judgment in that being good for us. But you can't just look and say, oh, yeah, well, that's good. Trump's got it. What if Trump actually is, what if the plan is to wake the people up so that the people actually can discern for themselves? So that, as he said in the 2017 inauguration, we're giving power back to you, the people. Do we have a real federal government? Is any of it real or legitimate? It might not be. And that might include president. Donald Trump's legitimacy wouldn't be in question. He's been the president now for however many years. He clearly has the American people's mandate. Even if he determined that he was going to call himself king, everybody's already given him that power. So on a real level, on a reality prime basis, people are behind Donald Trump making these sorts of decisions. We do not know why he is making them. Let's pause for a moment and we will come back to this theme. I just wanted to take a second. Snowcat operator, $5. Chris's microphone etiquette is superior. I feel like I've been throwing it around, moving it back and forth, maybe even smacked it a couple times. So I'm not sure that's true. The clip from the Oval Office where Peter Doocy was asking Donald Trump questions about the Secretary of Education, there was some mic sounds in that. That's not me. I cannot take any responsibility for that. Snowcat operator also gifted a subscription. Thank you very much, my friend. Okay. So let's go to another one of these characters who might simply be a character who is a rising star in the Uniparty establishment, who Trump has decided to feature prominently in his second or third administration. And I'm talking, of course, about the running mates in last year's fake campaign leading up to the fake election. And that running mate's name is JD Vance. JD Vance is now pretending to be vice president for as long as Donald Trump allows that situation to persist. Let us, hold on. I don't like the, oh no, this clip will be fine. Okay, so let's go here to Fox News. This is the Super Bowl interview with Brett Baer that for whatever reason was not shown leading up to the Super Bowl. Instead, they just clipped about 7 minutes of that with mostly Donald Trump talking about big picture stuff and things having to do with the Super Bowl and American culture and the rest of it, and left the rest of the interview for a dead Monday night primetime airing. Maybe that was part of the perfect plan that we're not privy to. Maybe it was not. Maybe Donald Trump gave an interview where the Murdochs and the people at Fox News had to hear a lot of things that would conflict with the way Fox News presents their coverage of politics. And so they said to themselves, you know what? We're not going to put this on in front of the biggest audience we could ever possibly get. We're going to put this on 2.5 hours before the Super Bowl for a couple minutes worth of innocuous comments. And then we'll play the rest of it on our shitty cable show tomorrow night. And if people cut it up and put it on the internet, so be it. Well, here is Donald Trump.
President Trump, here's a preview of what we're going to see tonight on Special Report.
Do you view Vice President JD Vance as your successor, the Republican nominee in 2028?
No, but he's very capable. I mean, I don't think that I think you have a lot of very capable people. So far, I think he's doing a fantastic job. It's too early. We're just starting.
But by the time you get to the midterms, he's going to be looking for an endorsement.
Yeah, a lot of people have said that this has been the greatest opening, almost 3 weeks, in the history of the presidency.
That's like been the fastest and the most stuff
Well,
happening.
we've done so much so fast, and we really had to, because they have really, what they've done to our country is so sad. It's so sad. We're going to be bigger, better, and stronger than ever before.
Is JD Vance the successor? No. No. Didn't hesitate? No. The answer is no. Oh, he's doing a fantastic job. Oh, he's just fabulous. Yeah, let's send him over to Europe. Yeah, he went down to Virginia and met with Glenn Youngkin. Trump goes down and tours hurricane damage. Then the next day, JD's down there. JD's traveling to Europe now. Oh, he's going to do important things. Well, you know who also did those same important things? Kamala. She went to meet with the Europeans. She went to the Munich Security Conference, all those globalist affairs. So is Trump, is JD Vance Trump's emissary to global government, to the deep state, to the Uniparty, to the regime? Maybe. Was JD Vance a choice for Trump, by Trump? Or was he a choice that Republicans really got behind? And so that was one of them for them. He's Peter Thiel's guy. The kind of civil war they're talking about in MAGA, what's that between the actual patriotic MAGA nationalist populists versus the libertarian tech bros from Silicon Valley who supported Democrats 10 years ago? Which side is JD Vance from? That side. Which side does the media tell us he's from? The populist nationalist side. Is he? No. No one believes that. So he's not the successor, and it gets worse. And, you know, again, I know that people think that this stuff is blackpilling. This is not blackpilling. We are trying to understand these situations, and I'm trying to make the point as clearly as possible that these are things that if we are perceiving situations as they are in real time, we could be detecting for ourselves, but we are not, because instead what we're doing is we are groveling before the television and the television characters that are presented to us. It doesn't matter whether Trump pulls their names up and Trump puts them front and center, or whether the television does. It really doesn's matter. And everybody's like, well, Trump's got his reasons. Yeah, he does have his reasons. You know what everybody told us after all of these times? Well, that person's just about as good as any person could be. Trump chose that person. He would never put a bad person in a position like that. We already have 10 years of him doing that to look back on and say, oh, well, you know, we can't ever know exactly what Donald Trump is doing. Sometimes he gives us good people. Sometimes he gives us bad people. Sometimes he just gives us people that he's using for his own reasons for a particular period of time, and then those people go away. Sometimes people are just neutral. But we got to assume that all of them are the best people ever. Everyone was anointing JD Vance as the successor until about a couple of days ago, and now we're hearing that Tulsi Gabbard is actually the first woman president ever. Roger Stone said that. Charlie Kirk people are saying that. It's weird. I don't think Charlie Kirk himself said that. But by the way, how about this? I don't think we're going to have time to get to this today, unfortunately. But the New York Times did another massive PR piece on Charlie Kirk just a couple of days ago. Where is it? Where is it? Oh, here it is. Perfect. Look at this. Look at this PR they did for Charlie Kirk. Maybe at some point we'll go through this piece. How Charlie Kirk became the youth whisperer of the American right. Okay? Look how long this piece is. That's incredible, isn't it? 5,000 words, 6,000 words. Look at the YMCA. There he is. I guess that's his wife, former Miss Arizona. They make sure to let you know. Charlie looking very surprised. Turning Point had their own inaugural ball. There he is. Oh, look at that. Ben Shapiro, front and center at the Turning Point ball. And what else do we have here? Well, there's Don Jr. Nobody's denying that. Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk's origin story was that he latched on to Don Jr. in like 2017 and couldn't be gotten rid of. So amazing pictures. Greenland. Mar-a-Lago, his show. All right. So we had the Ben Shapiro and Charlie Kirk won the youth vote, which is what won Donald Trump the election. And of course, Scott Pressler is part of the Turning Point USA thing, as are all of the based and red-pilled influencers. There's an army of like 350 of them on Twitter, and they just kind of do their own thing. They don't tell everybody that we're part of Turning Point USA, but of course they are part of this massive media operation, and they just can't talk about election fraud, and they have to be super nice about Israel. Those are the only qualifications. And so we get all the normie bullshit from these people for years and years and years, and that's all Charlie Kirk, Ben Shapiro, Scott Pressler, the whole thing. That's what won Donald Trump the fake election. Can't doubt it. You can never doubt it. Except also there's this thing. This is Donald Trump on Sunday. Same interview that didn't get played till Monday.
Sports has always been something that Americans rally around to come together. They really do. You won the popular vote. You won all the swing states. But still, Kamala Harris got 75 million votes in the country.
Well, if you believe the whole thing.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just say
is ridiculous.
That the election was as it was.
Excuse me. There are 7 swing states. I won them all.
You did
by a lot.
But let me just get to the dismount here.
And I won the popular.
Have you thought about how to try to bring the country together? Sports has always been something.
Isn't that amazing? Donald Trump has to unify the country. We're going to get to that in 1 second in light of what we discussed on Monday. But listen to Trump's response here.
In the country.
Well, if you believe the whole thing.
Okay. Let's just say
it is ridiculous.
Well, if you believe the whole thing is ridiculous. He's talking about the 2024 election, the election that we are told made him president once again. The whole thing is ridiculous. That's him saying that. He's mocking the idea of believing in the election results. I don't know how else to take that. He says, Brett Baer says Kamala got 75 million votes, which is his proof that the country is closely divided. And Trump says, well, you know, if you believe the whole thing is ridiculous. I agree with Donald Trump. Donald Trump agrees with me. I spent a year saying that was a fake election and that Donald Trump would be declared the winner and that the worst case scenario would be Trump declared the winner, the Uniparty wins down ticket, and everybody goes back to sleep believing that elections were somehow fixed, even though we know they weren't fixed. That's exactly the situation we find ourselves in right now. And there were people who were our friends telling us that maybe the elections are just fine the day after the election. And that maybe that even means that the 2020 election was fine. We had a few of those. We have people that consider the Congress and the Senate legitimate as a result of the 2024 election. Donald Trump just mocked the idea of believing the election results from 2024. He said, if you believe that whole thing, the whole thing is ridiculous. That's him saying that, not me saying that. And Brett Baer says that because these election results that no one believes show a closely divided nation, Donald Trump now has to work to unite the American people. Well, what was the theme of the Super Bowl on Sunday as it was communicated to us online through our based and red-pilled Q and MAGA influencer set? Well, we all have to unite. Look at that. They're being patriotic. Everyone wants to unite. Why aren't you being unifying? The whole message is unity. Brett Baer just set him up, and Trump batted that whole idea away. He just mocked the idea that anyone could believe in the election results from 2024. So the election of 2024 was a farce, okay? We participated in that as part of our own self-delusion. The people holding the election and running the election, the actual process of it, know that our elections are fake. The people running in the elections know that our elections are fake because they're the ones making deals about who's going to win. And we know that the elections are fake because the election system cannot produce a legitimate outcome. And we still participated anyway. And then because of the result that the television told us, we said, oh, well, I guess everything's okay. There's President Trump saying that the elections are not okay. It is ridiculous to think. It is ridiculous to believe the results of those elections. That's Donald Trump saying that. Not me saying it's Trump saying it. So if the election results are fake, then clearly the House is illegitimate. The Senate is illegitimate. And the running mate that he announced on Truth Social one day, 2 days after assassination event number 1, which was 2 days after JD Vance's owner and Reid Hoffman of Epstein Island fame were yelling at each other at a billionaire meeting in public about martyring Donald Trump. Is JD Vance the successor? No. But we have to grovel before Tulsi Gabbard and Paulina Luna? If we are in a post-constitutional America, if we are under some form of military government, it would behoove us to stop pretending that our entire government is legitimate just because the television news channels tell us that's so. And it would behoove us to stop applauding all the potential replacements for Trump, having no reason to believe they are even on our side. And yet we are. And I will take heat for saying these things. And I've done it for a while. And people think that like I get off on this or something. It's actually really annoying. It's really, really annoying. I don't want to have to do this. But no one else is doing it. Some of my friends are now, which is wonderful. But how do we fix this problem if the first instinct is always to grovel and the second instinct is to be angry at anyone who's not groveling with us? Everyone wants to go back to sleep, and I understand that. I understand it. It's fine. It would be wonderful to not have to think about any of this stuff. Maybe the way to do that is to focus on politics at our local level and our state level. And hopefully we will see over the next few years, Donald Trump dissolve the federal government in its entirety. Okay? If the Department of Education can go away, then all of the rest of the departments can go away. And you know what else can go away? The Department of Defense can go away. We really don't need any of the departments. Donald Trump had the option to stand them up, the Treasury Department, the Department of War being most particularly important back at the beginning. But the rest of them don't need to exist, and those ones don't need to exist either. The president, as commander-in-chief, was supposed to call together the militias of the several states and then make the big picture decisions and be the final military authority, the commander in chief, for defending the nation from foreign invasion, not from figuring out which governments around the world we should overturn. That wasn't the founder's intent. The country that we are, the government that we are groveling before, is the government of the global regime. It is the uniparty government, and the uniparty government structure, after 250 years of non-stop usurpation, subversion, and infiltration. Why are we protecting that system? I'm not like some radical or revolutionary. This isn't our government. This is a foreign occupying government. It's a foreign occupation that has taken our constitutional republic and inverted it. And you can see its inversion in the law. You can read historians and law professors tell you exactly why it was inverted. Why are we protecting that? Why are the most based and red-pilled people out there communicating in public? The media, the influencers, the radio and podcast hosts. Why are they telling us to protect that? Why are they telling us to applaud new bureaucrats? Oh, they're going to scare the deep state. These people are making liberals' heads explode. No, they're not. They're just perpetuating the state. They are not doing anything more than perpetuating the state. Okay. And there was this, let me pull this up actually. I'm going to pull it up just briefly. I don't want to go through this whole thing because it's long. But people got really into this video over the last week because everyone's so stoked about, where is the video? There's a whole movie for this thread. There is this thread by a character called Eco Loves You. And this is, what in the world? I don't know where the video is. Maybe I just manifested it in my own mind. So here's just a look at this. Everybody's been talking about this week. And just to be clear, if the video was only based on this article and it wasn't actually this guy making the video, then please understand my critique as being not about this guy, but rather whoever made that video. But this is this eco character talking about the whole Doge thing. And it's kind of like the anime version with cool graphic art about exactly what's happening. And the idea is that now the good and efficient people take the whole government over, and finally our massive sprawling super state has all the powers it has now, but is using them for good rather than for evil, like we've always wanted. Except the problem is that too is still a projection of the global regime. The global regime is the owner of every massive, sprawling super state government that controls everything. And not to be like, that's the Nazis. I'm not doing it for that reason. It just also is really the case that that was what made the Nazis so good. Oh, the trains, they always ran on time. Yes, if you have a government that has all power throughout society, and you have people who are willing to be authoritarians and totalitarians running that government, then perhaps for a time, the system they create will be extremely efficient. But what we want is not an efficient, all-powerful superstate. What we want is freedom, right? Liberty, the American founding principles. We attempted the massive, sprawling, super efficient super state in 2020 with a very deadly pandemic. That was like their wildest wet dream. Let us do everything. We're going to do everything by the numbers. Look at our data. You're all going to I know that it sounds crazy that you have to stand 6 feet apart in a grocery store, but just wait till you see the data. Okay, Kami, give me the data. Oh, the data said that didn't work. We got to do it harder. All right. What about that mask thing? That seems crazy. These are just cloth masks. Everybody knows those can't stop viruses. Oh, we're going to do it anyway? Wear 2 masks now? Wear a mask in your car? Do you have any data on that? The data says that doesn't work either. Well, I guess we're just going to have to do it harder. KN95s for everyone. And apparently people are groveling and begging for this. Oh my God, Elon's fixed everything. Let's just give all the power to the superstate. It's going to be super efficient. No. The power must go away from the superstate. Donald Trump, if he is doing the job that I believe he is doing, and that I believe he claims he is doing, then the federal government will be very, very small, and if it exists, and almost powerless if, again, it exists. It seems like Donald Trump is on the path toward getting us there. He is unwinding all of this. And in a sense, if you kind of try to assess the big picture of how the usurpation happened, the infiltration, the subversion over time, you can watch the stepwise unwinding of all of that. You can watch Trump spearhead that. Okay. So I don't need to hear trust the plan. I trust Donald Trump is doing the job he says he's doing. It doesn't mean that I need to trust everybody he puts into the spotlight, or think that because he nominated someone to the Department of Education, that means he believes we need one, or that it's constitutional. It's pretty clear that he doesn't believe that. So why should we applaud it? Let us continue. We are told now that we are in a constitutional crisis. Here is the official television characters. Here are the official television characters being delivered to us by Elon Musk, saying their authenticity is overwhelming. And it always is. Just as the authenticity of all the people saying, you gotta take the win.
That is a constitutional crisis.
Causing a constitutional crisis.
Constitutional crisis.
That this is a genuine constitutional crisis.
Constitutional crisis.
Crisis the country has faced.
Constitutional crisis.
It's going to be a constitutional crisis. We're headlong into a genuine constitutional crisis.
Witnessing is a constitutional crisis.
All right, so you get the picture. Adam Kinzinger and Ilhan Omar and Jen Psaki, Harold Ford. Remember that guy? He's on TV now. He's on like Fox's The Five. He was a Democrat candidate for Congress, or he was a congressman, and I believe he was trying to get like to the next level, and then got destroyed by a sex or cheating scandal or something. And so, yeah, we're in a constitutional crisis because Donald Trump is exercising the authority of his office and overriding the usurped authority that Congress had claimed for itself in creating the sprawling federal bureaucracy. Their claim is that Donald Trump has to spend all the money that Congress committed to those offices, and that he has to allow them to operate independently because we are told that those are independent agencies. We are told there is a constitutional crisis. We have been told for many years, by the way, that a constitutional crisis is imminent. And we have been told by people on our side that for totally opposing reasons, we are in a constitutional crisis as well, including just this week. Everybody has been really upset at a variety of judges who are trying to thwart the Trump agenda and the things that Donald Trump is doing. we've been in a constitutional crisis for a really long time, potentially, or maybe we're not in a constitutional crisis at all because we are simply in a post-constitutional period. And again, Donald Trump said that because of these unprecedented situations that we found ourselves in, well, those require unprecedented cures, and that those unprecedented cures could include some of the constitutional provisions being hung up. Now, those constitutional provisions might be the ones contained in the amendments past number 10, all of which were improperly ratified. Not that the original was either, but we'll leave that aside for now. I mean, we can at least understand that everyone has maybe tacitly agreed that that is the law of the land. So we can start with that as our default. But what happened after that does not just get grandfathered into being the law of the land just because those usurpations have been baked into the system now. The constitutional crisis started a very long time ago, and Donald Trump, to unwind that constitutional crisis, would put in a mode of crisis everything that follows from the amendments past number 10. And most particularly everything that rests on the 14th Amendment, which is the Department of Justice, the FBI, and all of that. So as for the constitutional crisis, is it coming from our side or their side? Does it matter at all? It probably doesn't. What we definitely don't need to do is say constitutional crisis on TV over and over and over again. We don't need to freak out about a constitutional crisis. We don't need to go out and say, I can't believe this judge's decision. This is now a constitutional crisis. Well, maybe it is. Or maybe the constitutional crisis was already there. Or maybe it doesn't matter because it's all going to be okay. Here is CNN's most based and red-pilled person ever, Scott Jennings, talking about, here's a little more on the constitutional crisis here.
I think is a joke. That you have these partisan hack Democrat attorney generals, they get together, and the only thing they know how to do is try to nullify the results of the last election by venue shopping these district court judges. They find the most lunatic liberals they can. They file lawsuits knowing full well they're going to try to usurp the president's authority, tie this up in court for years.
That stuff is sacrosanct. And you've got people going in there who don't know anything about that system.
But these are also just restraining orders.
He knows nothing about it.
What you just said is so profound. You said these people don't know anything and they don't know what they're doing.
That's right.
But they're appointees. I understand. But they are appointees of the duly elected president. So your view, you're here as our legal expert, but your view is because you don't personally believe they know enough that the duly elected president who appointed a treasury secretary and who appoints special appointees like Elon Musk shouldn't be able to act as the president because you don't personally believe they know enough?
Well, they
is that how
certainly it
works?
no.
Or do elections mean anything to you?
Well, it's got nothing to do with elections.
Of course,
the fact
it's doing
the fact of the matter is there is a law.
The truth was told.
The truth was told. It's got nothing to do with elections. Doesn't matter what the election says. The president, quote unquote, by their measure, is not allowed to do any of these things. It's not that the Constitution says he can't do these things. The Constitution absolutely makes the president the plenary authority of everything that happens in the executive branch. So he can definitely do the things. It's got nothing to do with elections. And these people can't do their jobs because they don't know what they're doing. Well, they're doing something other than the uniparty regime was doing before them. Because that's what Donald Trump was, quote unquote, elected to do. Donald Trump has the mandate. Elon Musk actually seems to have a public mandate to do what he's doing as well. He was part of the package going in with Donald Trump. And by the way, what happened to Vivek Ramaswamy while we're talking about presidential appointments? He was supposed to be part of Doge. He's not anymore. Darn. And then he was maybe going to be appointed to JD Vance's Ohio Senate seat, but then he wasn't. Darn. And now Mike DeWine has appointed a lieutenant governor in Ohio Jim Tressel, the former Ohio State football coach. I think I saw that the other day. That's probably a fast track to governor. Who's going to be more popular in Ohio? In red Ohio, in Rust Belt, Ohio? Jim Tressel, the heroic Ohio State football coach, or Vivek Ramaswamy, the supporter of the H-1B visa, a proponent of immigrant labor in the Rust Belt? Tough call. Did Trump mess up there? I don't know. Everybody's going to have to decide where they stand on the rest of these examples if they want to tell me that Donald Trump picked all these people just because they're the best possible people to do this job that's very important and must be done, and they're going to serve out their term as a faithful servant of Donald Trump and the American people. I don't buy it for a second. Why don't I buy it? Because it's ridiculous. This here is quite interesting. This is a post by Jeffrey Tucker of the extraordinarily suspect Brownstone Institute. But hey, we don't need to hash that out right now. Let's just have a look at this here graphic. This is, actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and just save this little org chart, and maybe we can pull this up in a way that will not affect my ability to stream to quite the same degree. And I know that some of the things are glitchy. Hopefully all of that will be worked out by next week. I have not purchased for myself a new computer in 5 or 6 years, so I've just done that. Hopefully that'll make the streaming experience all that much better. So here is that org chart. And what we have is the Constitution up here at the top, the executive branch, the legislative branch, the judicial branch. And all of everything else you see is under the executive branch. What is under the legislative branch? The architect of the Senate and the House, of course, the architect of the Capitol, the United States Botanical Garden, the Government Accountability Office, the Government Printing Office, the Library of Congress, and the Congressional Budget Office. And that's it. Under the judicial branch, the U.S. Court of Appeals, the U.S. District Courts, the Territorial Courts, the U.S. Court of International Trade, the U.S. Court of Federal Claims, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Armed Forces, the Tax Court, the Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims, the Administrative Office of the U.S. Courts, the Federal Judicial Center, and the United States Sentencing Commission. Was that part of the Constitution? All those other bodies? No. The Supreme Court was. The federal courts were stood up just after that. Are federal courts necessary? An interesting debate, a subject I will probably look more into at some point, but haven't spent a lot of time on. Everything else is under the executive branch. The president, vice president, executive office of the president, White House office, office of the VP, office of Council of Economic Advisors, Council on Environmental Quality, the National Security Council, the Office of Administration, the Office of Management and Budget, the Office of National Drug Control Policy, the Office of Policy Development, Science and Technology Policy, and the U.S. Trade Representative. All of those are part of the executive branch. Then you go out into the executive branch agencies: Ag, Commerce, Defense, Education, Energy, Health and Human Services, Homeland Security, Housing and Urban Development, Department of the Interior, Department of Justice, Department of Labor, State, Transportation, Treasury, and Veterans Affairs. And then you go down from there to the independent establishments and government corporations. And we can take this down now. All of these independent agencies are under the executive branch. All of these departments are under the executive branch. According to the Constitution, everything in the executive branch, all of this is under the plenary authority of the president. Okay? The buck stops there. And the president has plenary authority, absolute and final say over what the rest of the executive branch does. If they're doing something that the president doesn't like, the president can simply go, oh, stop that. We are being told that the president is not allowed to do that because the Congress has appropriated funds to those agencies or departments or whatever. There is no such thing as an independent agency. There is no such thing as an independent agency. And the TV tells us there is. The Uniparty politicians tell us there is. Why? What is an independent agency under the executive branch in a constitutional form? They tell us that it is a check and a balance on the president's constitutional power, and that it was provided as part of the system of checks and balances by our founders, as though the founders wanted there to be a situation where the Congress could force the president to do things, and the courts, by their own choice, could tell the president he wasn't allowed to exercise his constitutional authorities to carry out certain of his responsibilities. There is absolutely no way that the founders could have ever possibly intended that. And yet, we are told that is how things operate. The constitutional crisis is not that, quote unquote, independent agencies that are accountable to no one, including the executive authority, the actual chief executive. That's not the constitutional crisis, that independent agencies can thwart what the president does and operate totally on their own. They can even have their own foreign policy. That's what we were told during the Ukraine impeachment hoax. We were told that the Department of State, that there was U.S. foreign policy and that the president was messing up U.S. foreign policy. The president is the plenary authority on U.S. foreign policy. The president cannot declare war. Congress is supposed to do that, but Congress doesn't do that. And now we're just in a permanent state of war, a permanent state of emergency, and a permanent state of continuity of government. And we've been like that for decades. So the president doesn't have any of the actual powers that a president is supposed to have because they don't like what the president is doing. And that's what we just got to witness in that CNN clip, that in microcosm at least. And people are talking about that chart. Yeah, that chart I think has gone around pretty extensively today, but that is a good resource that everyone should keep on hand. I'm going to post that I'm going to do it right now in the Telegram info stream, t.me/very reasonable. And I'm going to call it U.S. government org chart. Okay. Simple search, t.me/very reasonable. That will bring it right up. Let us continue. So we have the judge we have judges freezing funds. We have judges stopping firings. We have judges telling the president that he is not allowed to have his special appointees looking into the systems and records of executive branch agencies and departments. And as I always say, judges should operate by the books. Whatever they do, let's get it appealed. Let's go all the way up to the Supreme Court. Let's get the lines drawn on the field. Let's get the rule book written so everyone can read it. Let's agree to the set of rules. And then let's take the field and play ball. And I am certain that we will be just fine in doing that. Tell us what the rules are. Operate by those rules. We will operate by those rules as well. And then we will defeat you. And that is what makes them so angry about Donald Trump. He does things that are outside of what they want, but still according to not only the set of rules in the original Constitution, but the set of rules they have created as well. So they can't get him vis-a-vis the original Constitution, and they can't get him based on the rules that they set up, which means that permanently, forever, they are screwed. And that's what makes some of it so funny and so entertaining. This is from the National Pulse today. Apparently, this believes it's from tomorrow. And maybe I'm behind, I guess. This came out 9 hours ago. I'm going to say it's from today. Judge blocking White House spending freeze called Trump tyrant in 2021 anti-white tirade. He said, our values in a legal sense are the Constitution. It's for that reason, and we saw there are plenty of examples of history, and there's plenty of examples over the last 4 years where it's the courts that kept that balloon from bursting when it was challenged. He goes on later. Oh, here's the video. Let's just watch the video. Oh, no, sorry.
So
way too long. But you get the picture. One of the woke judges serving under Biden calling Trump a tyrant. Now we're hearing from these people again as they are called into service to do whatever necessary to stop Trump from doing what he was elected to do. And we had plenty of previews of all of this in the year leading up to the fake election, throughout the fake campaign. We were being told by people like Mark Elias and others that there was going to be a lawfare apparatus put in place. They were going to challenge us not only in the streets, but they were going to challenge us in the courts, and they were going to challenge us in Congress and whatever else. Now we have an agency-wide resistance in various agencies throughout the government. Some of the inspector generals as well. Actually, I might as well go ahead and pull this up today. Today, the inspector generals that Trump let go are suing. This is CNN today. Government watchdogs fired by Trump sue to get their jobs back. The lawsuit, wait, hold on. Let me just see if I remember exactly. Let's just do this. I have my highlights. My highlights are gone. They say that Trump shouldn't have been able to fire them in late January without first notifying Congress, and that the White House ignored regulations around their removal that existed to protect them from political interference and retribution. Well, it doesn't matter if rules were set up to protect them from the president. This was part of course, their statutory authority, setting them up as independent agencies, but they're not independent agencies because independent agencies are not a real thing. The independent agencies, I don't think I finished that point. Independent agencies are clearly set up to serve the global regime and the Uniparty outside of presidential purview, just in case the Uniparty had a president in place that was not doing what the Uniparty wanted. They want to make these things sound illegitimate and illegal so that if someone like Trump arises and doesn't care about their boundaries, well, then they can disqualify him in the eyes of the American people. And of course, that's what they're attempting to do. The administration's, quote, actions have inflicted substantial damage on the critical oversight ethos of transparency, truth-telling without fear or favor, and respect for the rule of law, says the lawsuit filed in D.C. federal court. Now, the D.C. federal court is exceptional. It's a little different because D.C. is a little different. Now, people keep saying that they see on these various maps apps that Washington is just Washington now. It's no longer D.C. That has to happen at some point. If it's happened already and we don't know about it, all good. I've heard that claim made. I don't think that claim can be proven simply by the app. I think it's probably right, but I don't know. The lawsuit is the latest among more than 4 dozen filed in federal courts to challenge swift, early executive actions by the Trump administration. Many of the lawsuits, like Wednesday's, allege that Trump's White House is depriving Congress of some of its power. No. The IG's case adds to a pile of challenges from government workers the Trump administration has removed from various posts, especially those in independent or non-political roles. Trump has plenary authority throughout the executive branch. That is what the American people gave him a mandate to do. Okay? So we get down here to the end. Those whom Trump fired include IGs at crucial departments, including Defense, Health and Human Services, and Veterans Affairs, who say their work has saved the agencies millions of dollars. So these inspectors general, who are supposed to be overseeing the departments and the agencies, making sure there's no waste, fraud, and abuse, they've overseen billions, hundreds of billions, or trillions of dollars in waste, fraud, and abuse, not to mention all the illegal and unconstitutional activity undertaken by these agencies and departments. But they say they're saving us millions of dollars. One of the IGs who is suing, Phyllis Fong, has been in her position at the Department of Agriculture for more than 20 years, and she is just grandfathered in. No one has been nominated and then replaced her until, I believe, well, she's the IG. So there hasn't been an IG nominated to replace her. Brooke Rollins is now the Secretary of Agriculture. So Fong was told she was fired, and then afterwards she continued to go to work. She says, recognizing that her termination was not effective because it failed to comply with the IG Act's requirements. This is what her attorneys wrote until her federal badge was deactivated and her computer and phone were taken back by the Department of Agriculture. We're supposed to believe that was illegal, that somehow the Inspector General Act's requirements usurp and supersede, I should say, the Constitution. Several of those who were suing had worked under Trump during his first term in the presidency, and one, Hannibal Mike Ware of the Small Business Administration, had been Trump's nominee for the post in 2018. And that means Trump shouldn't be firing his own nominee after 7 years. The other IGs who are suing are Robert Storch of the Defense Department and a bunch of other guys. Well, Robert Storch, there's been a lot of talk about him over the years in our community. And apparently he's a great guy, or some believe, and maybe he's not. But regardless, he was fired from his role as Inspector General at the Defense Department. And now he's part of the group suing Donald Trump. Maybe it's just kayfabe. Probably, because I mean, Robert Storch, everybody knows that he's a hero or something. Oh, Storchy. All right, let's reset here for a moment. Checking to see if I missed any rants. Checking to see if I missed any comments. S. Connor 2020 says, I love this subscriber stream chat. You are also engaged in this fight. I appreciate you bringing all of us together here. That was directed at me. Thank you very much. I hope that the subscriber stream is still a good feature for people. I wonder if maybe what I should do rather than subscriber streams is create a locals, like on Rumble, locals only subscriber stream for all of these streams. And you guys can let me know. Please give me feedback, whether it's on here or on Substack. Maybe even the Substack comments is more likely for me to be sure to see it. Maybe it's better to just have a local stream and gift my Substack subscribers locals subscriptions. That is a possibility. And that might then allow me to stream these episodes to a much larger audience while also giving kind of a special thing to Substack subscribers. I'm very conscious of trying to provide something extra for Substack subscribers because that's what's kept me going for these last nearly 5 years now. Rumble Me says we will have to join locals. Yes, you would, but I'm saying in a free subscription scenario. So I know maybe it sucks to have a subscription to an extra app or an extra website. Maybe that's a problem. By all means, let me know what the feedback is. If that's not the right solution, we'll find another solution. It's just a proposition I am making right here and right now that I have not put a whole lot of thought into. So if you don't like it, all good. Let's go to Jamie Raskin, Friar Cuck himself.
Age racist computer hackers have taken possession of financial payment systems at the United States Department of Treasury.
Teenage racist computer hackers. This is some hearing, oversight committee hearing today.
Meaning data access to the private financial records of every American citizen, every member of Congress, every federal prosecutor, every regulator who's supposed to be looking at what his business does. And what have the courts been saying? They've said a dozen times in 3 weeks that they're violating the Constitution of the United States and the laws passed by Congress. That's what's going on in America today. That's what we should be having a hearing about, not some airy academic conversation about the administrative state.
And the fact that Mr. Raskin, you're here this whole time we've been here. You've just been complaining about the process. I'll call it a process. And again, I'm not disagreeing with your issues right now around Musk and the process that's following Mr. Vladek, the process that you're following. At some point, what is the end game? Isn't the end game to make us, the American people, better off? Isn't it? Isn't it? No, I hear you saying that the stuff that would make us better off doesn't matter. All you care about right now is a process of Musk and his associates are not doing this the right way. The goal, is the goal moral and right or not? If you say it is, as I think you should be saying, then the fight shouldn't be about, we need to take Musk down or Trump down. Let us rethink that if you want, but keep your eye on the ball, and your ball should be me. It should be me. I'm sorry, it should be me.
Yeah.
It should be me. How do we make me better off? Thank you, Mr. Jordan.
You bet. And by me, you mean the American people.
That's what I mean by that.
That was a great comeback. Cheers to that lady. I don't know who she is. She's exactly right. But the reason I bring that up, aside from the entertainment value and the principle expressed in that video, is Jamie Raskin himself. Because Jamie Raskin has a wife named Sarah Bloom Raskin, who's got her own interesting stuff going on. Darn it. I thought I had that LinkedIn here. LinkedIn. That's a website. So here's where we're going to start. In 2022, in February of 2022, Jamie Raskin's wife, Sarah Bloom Raskin, was a Joe Biden nominee. The fake president, Joe Biden, went out and said to the American people, we are going to give Friar Cuck's wife an important position. This is from Breitbart. This is just a picture, not the whole article. Representative Jamie Raskin allegedly violated Stock Act by not disclosing wife's $1.5 million stock payout. Starting to sound like his pal, Nancy Pelosi. Joe Biden nominated Raskin's wife, Sarah Bloom Raskin, for vice chairwoman of supervision at the Federal Reserve. A vital financial position. Raskin's wife previously served at the top levels of the U.S. Treasury and the Federal Reserve during former President Barack Obama's administration. Now, Jamie Raskin's dad is an old school communist, and we have gone through that a number of times, so I don't want to rehash all of that. This is one of the headlines from CNBC back in 2022. The Fed is about to see a lot of new faces. What it means for banks, the economy, and markets. President Biden is expected to nominate Sarah Bloom Raskin. And there she is. The article says, of the three, Raskin is, there are other candidates mentioned as well. Raskin is thought to be the biggest change agent. She is expected to take a heavier hand in her prospective role as the vice chair for bank supervision, a position until December that had been held by Randall Quarles, who took a lighter touch. But while Raskin could ramp up the rhetoric on the financial system, there are questions over how much that actually will translate into policy-wise. She's a former regulator. She knows this stuff. This is not something she's going to screw up, said some guy at some advisory firm, a former Fed researcher. The bankers will be surprised that the rhetoric is going to be maybe a bit more extreme, but the substance, what are they going to do to these guys? It's not like they take a lot of risks. Okay. Maybe they don't need to take risks because they've always been so happy to simply slowly implement the regime's agenda in whatever agency they are tasked with running. Now, last night, my online pal, who I do not know, who goes by, maybe I do know, or maybe I met her at Garden, just don't recognize the screen name. In fact, maybe that is what it is. She goes by Moron Mama, which I find amusing. She let me know about Sarah Bloom Raskin and brought up Sarah Bloom Raskin's page at Duke University Law. And in addition to this link, which you will find in the info stream, she said, look who is a Rubenstein fellow. She has a lot of power. Federal Reserve Board of Governors, Deputy Secretary of Treasury, Climate Change Boards, Senior Fellow at Duke Center of Risk, etc., etc. But she is a Rubenstein Fellow. That would be the David Rubenstein Fellow. As a Rubenstein Fellow, Raskin collaborated with faculty across the university to improve understanding of markets and regulation. She led an agenda focused on shaping a new relationship between regulation and resilience in financial markets and deepening understanding of the management of systemic risks from diverse sources such as financial instruments, cyber breaches, and climate events. Climate events. Her private sector experience includes having served as managing director at the Promontory Financial Group, general counsel of the Worldwide Retail Exchange, and at the law firms of Arnold and Porter and Mayer Brown. Earlier in her career, she served as banking counsel for the U.S. Senate Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs. Now she's doing Regenerative Crisis Response Committee, all sorts of globalist-oriented stuff. And married to Friar Cuck Jamie Raskin, one of the most prominent and powerful Democratic members of Congress. So the David Rubenstein Center. Also worth noting, by the way, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, we should think about what that word development means in light of all we've found out about what the United States Agency for International Development does. Are they just trying to create more opportunities for communism and more implementation of the regime's agenda in urban communities? Are they trying to turn all the inner city kids trans? Yeah, probably that's what they're doing. Ben Carson, I think, was the Housing and Urban Development Secretary under Trump 1. So no offense to Ben Carson in any way whatsoever, but I imagine he was probably in there trying to figure out what exactly was going on with an organization like that. Why do we have housing and urban development planned by the federal government? Does that seem like something the federal government can or should be doing? Why are they planning urban development? Are there federal government cities beyond Washington, D.C.? I think the answer is no. Although at this point, if the answer was yes, I'd be like, okay, I guess you could kind of see that coming. Why do we have a Department of Housing and Urban Development? Is that something the founders would have intended? Or is that the sort of thing that the founders would have perceived as an abomination? And I would suggest that it would be the latter. So back on Rubenstein a little bit. And I really do have to wonder, I don't have to wonder, I think it's pretty clear actually, that the Rubenstein move over the weekend with the commensurate move to remove the archivist from the National Archives, I think all of this is coordinated. I think that this is a major, let's put it this way. Let's backtrack for just a second. Let's talk about Rudy Giuliani for a second. And this is just theoretical. We don't have to go into details. So if I mess up a detail, forgive me. Rudy Giuliani is credited with taking down parts of the mafia in New York City through RICO, racketeering, influence, and corrupt organizations. I think I have that right. Basically taking down criminal enterprises. And in a criminal enterprise, if you're taking down a criminal enterprise, and remember, I've been talking forever about what I call Rico Grande, the kind of one Rico to rule them all, this Hillary Clinton case that'll eventually bring in the special counsel investigations, etc. Conspiracy theory? Call it that if you wish. You would get all the evidence at the lower levels and then try to take the whole thing down at once. Maybe you would, toward the end of that process, be taking down kingpins, kind of under bosses, whatever they are, the bosses before you eventually get to the head of the family. And so I would suggest that David Rubenstein is way up near the top. And I would also suggest that if you're removing him and mocking him, while doing so, removing him from particularly prestigious positions like the chairman of the Kennedy Center, then you are probably up there at the phase where you're taking down kind of the kingpins. And I think that that's what's happening. And Donald Trump posted about the Kennedy Center once again today on Truth Social. He said, this is Trump talking about Trump. President Donald J. Trump was just unanimously elected, not selected, elected, chairman of the board of the prestigious Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. Very interesting thing to say, considering he appointed himself. But I guess the board agreed. The president stated, quote, "It is a great honor to be chairman of the Kennedy Center, especially with this amazing board of trustees. We will make the Kennedy Center a very special and exciting place." Was that a press release by the Kennedy Center? It may well have been. I didn't go back in and look for that in particular, but it sounds like it might be that. So he eliminated the chairman and replaced a number of members of the board. And that is because the Kennedy Center is a quasi-governmental organization overseen by the president. I guess I had never looked into it before, just now, just these recent days. So we talked on Monday and we talked on Devolution Power Hour on Badlands on Saturday about David Rubenstein's role as the overseer of the archives. He wants to acquire all of these historical artifacts, whether it's the Magna Carta or the Declaration of Independence or a Holocaust museum or the White House History Center, or the Center for White House History. He wants to have control over the official history, because when you have control over the official history, you can write a new history and no one will be any the wiser, because they would say, well, I don't think that's what those original documents said. And then you'd have to be able to refer to the original documents. Well, if David Rubenstein has them in his secret lair, then you can't get at them. So yesterday, there was a press conference in the Oval Office, one of the, Trump's now nearly daily executive order signings, where he takes questions from the press, and he was joined by Elon Musk. And he was also joined by little X, who is Elon Musk's precocious little child. And there was an interesting moment that I want to discuss from that event yesterday. As soon as I can pull this up here and hope that my stream doesn't totally glitch out. Here we are.
And they receive it quickly and accurately. Also, another crazy thing. So, one of the things is like we are trying to sort of right-size the federal bureaucracy, just make sure that this. Obviously, there need to be a lot of people working for the federal government, but not as many as currently. So we're saying, well, okay, let's, if people can retire, with full benefits and everything, that would be good. They can retire, get their retirement payments, everything. And then we were told, this is actually, I think, a great anecdote, because we were told the most number of people that could retire possibly in a month is 10,000. We're like, well, why is that? Well, because all the retirement paperwork is manual on paper. It's manually calculated, then written down on a piece of paper. Then it goes down a mine. And like, what do you mean a mine? Like, yeah, there's a limestone mine where we store all the retirement paperwork. And you look at a picture of this mine. We'll post some pictures afterwards. And this mine looks like something out of the 50s because it was started in 1955. So it looks like it's like a time warp. And then the speed, the limiting factor is the speed at which the mine shaft elevator can move determines how many people can retire from the federal government. And the elevator breaks down sometimes, and then nobody can retire. Doesn't that sound crazy? There's like 1,000 people that work on this. So I think if we can take those people and say, like, you know what, instead of working in a mine shaft and carrying manila envelopes to boxes in a mine shaft, you could do practically anything else, and you would add to the goods and services of the United States in a more useful way.
So a limestone mine shaft and the way our records are kept in this underground facility make it so that only 10,000 government employees can be retired officially each month. And I thought, well, that's one of the craziest things I've ever heard. That sounds ridiculous. And so I started looking into it, of course. Because whenever there's something like that, I'm like, I feel like maybe people aren't going to look too deeply into this. I was very pleasantly surprised to see that some people did. And because, Elon Musk talking about some weird limestone mine shaft that makes it so people can't retire. Well, got to find out what's going on there. And so today, Laura Aboli posted this video that's like 6 minutes long. So I'm going to take a little break. I'm going to put this video up, and then we're going to come back and discuss this video. Here we go.
Secrets, even some information on you hidden away.
Carried around by trucks like these you might have seen on local roads or highways, but do you know where they're going? Como 4's Mary Nam traveled across the country to find the answers.
When it comes to protecting national secrets, the government goes deep underground, a virtually indestructible mine filled with files, patents, and secrets. It's the place Bill Gates chose to protect some priceless artifacts. And I got to see what few eyes have seen inside Iron Mountain. Drive an hour north of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It's rural, rolling pastures, lazy cows, not much to see. Or so you think. There's security cameras all out here.
Yes.
Iron Mountain is one of the most protected places on Earth. The Yellow Gates guard an abandoned mine, 3 miles long and 2 miles wide, 220 feet underground, with vault after vault of historic treasures and government secrets.
What we have in here, these rooms are between 25 and 30,000 square feet each, about 600 feet long. This is where we store boxed premium hard copy at this underground facility.
Just paper, the good old-fashioned paper document.
That is correct.
It's what's on those papers that makes them incredibly important. This is where the government keeps patents of countless inventions. The Social Security Administration is here. If you're a retired federal employee, your file is down here too. There's an endless maze of dark corridors that stretch into blackness. Vaults don't hold fancy jewelry or rare paintings. Vice President Chuck Doughty tells me it needs to be worth a whole lot more. So we are looking at the future home of...
This will be the future home of Smithsonian Institute, one of their records facilities.
Iron Mountain guards real records too. More than 700,000 original master tapes of some of the most famous and hard-to-find audio recordings.
We have Frank Sinatra's original single, Night and Day.
Night and day. These are the recordings used to make the CDs we buy at the store. From Michael Jackson's studio masters to Seattle's own Dave Matthews Band, even the king himself.
Here's an older Elvis with some tunes on it.
There are dark secrets in the mountain, too. The charred evidence from United Flight 93 brought down by terrorists on 9/11 is heavily guarded in one of the underground vaults. It's no secret who their biggest client is.
The biggest client by number of employees would be sections of the federal government.
There are branches of the government I've never seen before, like the U.S. Investigation Services. But Doughty is very tight-lipped about who does what and what's stored within these walls. Do you ask them, what do you want us to hold for you?
We do. And actually, our customers are very forthright in telling us whether they want us to publicize their names or they don't want anybody to know their names.
95% of their customers demand complete secrecy, and guarding the information is Iron Mountain's greatest strength. Iron Mountain is like an underground city. They have their own water, their own sewage, their own fire department, and their own security team. And management tells me they have never, ever had a security breach. That flawless record is why the world's richest man keeps some of the world's greatest treasures here. Bill Gates' company Corbis owns the rights to millions of historic images, one-of-a-kind originals. Corbis preserves them in Iron Mountain. These pictures are more valuable than diamonds, and they're treated that way.
Go into the vault.
The images are stored in a specially designed moisture-proof vault, the size of a football field. So here we are inside the vault, and it's cold.
It is.
It's cold in here.
It's 45 degrees in here, 35% humidity. And what we have stored in here are over 20 million images.
To keep track, manager Ann Hartman divided the images into subject files, from personalities to celebrities to events. All are glimpses into our history. Here he is. Let's see. From old Hollywood's Alfred Hitchcock to a rare photo of an infamous tyrant.
This is Hitler as a baby. This is an undated photograph.
Some images are more than 100 years old before film was even invented. The glass negatives are carefully wrapped in foil and stored in wooden crates. We found snapshots of Seattle's history too. Here's Pine Street before the condo boom. And of course our famous Space Needle. The true treasures, what Anne calls the prizes, are frozen forever.
So they're in boxes, specially packaged, so they're sealed. And in it, we would have images such as Marilyn Monroe with her skirt blowing up and Einstein with his tongue sticking out.
What price tag would you put on history? Whether it's a picture or a patent, it's all here in Iron Mountain, where secret treasures are truly buried beneath the Pennsylvania pasture.
I think that the best anyone's been able to do is that it's priceless. And certainly I probably couldn't do any better.
So how about that? So I kept going with this today, and the first thing, as soon as I got into it, the first question I asked, of course, was, does David Rubenstein have any connection to this place? And I'll get to that in just a second, but here is Ezra Cohen-Watnick's post on this morning, or maybe last night. No, this morning on X, formerly Twitter. Well, let's go to the Doge one first. It said federal employee retirements are processed using paper by hand in an old limestone mine in Pennsylvania. 700 plus mine workers operate 230 feet underground to process approximately 10,000 applications per month, which are stored in manila envelopes and cardboard boxes. The retirement process takes multiple months. Okay. So Ezra says, looks bad, Elon Musk, but wait till you see how historical paper classified records are handled and stored. Unlike retirement records, many of these records are still of use to national security if we could readily access. Ask the IC the per-page cost of digitizing classified records. Now that is all very interesting, particularly with his role in declassification. Now, I joked about this morning in a post I made highlighting Ezra's post, that it was very much like the last scene in the Raiders of the Lost Ark. And it is exactly the Nazis went and tried to steal the Ark of the Covenant. They had it. The Nazis are always trying to round up all of the history. It's got nothing to do with David Rubenstein, of course, even though Hitler's picture is down there. Never, 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 right? Never. Even though Paulina Luna's granddad was Jewish and in the Wehrmacht, just like no crossover whatsoever. You see Rubenstein, you know, if there's one thing that guy is not Nazi. I mean, sure, he's extremely powerful and his family is from Ukraine, not a Nazi, not a Khazarian. I don't know what you're thinking, but don't think it. That's defamatory or something. I would never want to get sued for defamation. So let's continue then. I had a little discussion with the machine, as one would, because the machine gives me little hints about where to look. And so it says No connection whatsoever between Rubenstein and Iron Mountain. Well, I thought to myself, that can't be right. His interest in historical archives and records suggests a connection, doesn't it? They said, no, never. I said, well, who runs Iron Mountain? William Meaney is the president and CEO of Iron Mountain. He assumed the role in January 2013. In 2021, Iron Mountain's revenue was $4.492 billion. Meaney's total compensation is about $15 million, which includes salary and bonuses. Before Iron Mountain, Meaney was CEO of the Zuelig Group. Earlier in his career, he worked in the airline industry. He also had a career as a CIA operations officer. What? So I kept going. Is this the same Iron Mountain that stores all the U.S. government documents? I thought this can't be. There's no way the U.S. government document storage place could be run by a corporation that has annual revenue of $5 billion and run by a man who's the CEO who makes $15 million a year. Just what we're told about. He said, actually, it is. It is indeed the same Iron Mountain. This vast underground facility is located 220 feet below ground in a former limestone mine, which is used to store various types of vital records, including federal government and employment records. This facility, often compared to the warehouse at the end of the movie Raiders of the Lost Ark, offers unmatched security and optimal preservation conditions for critical documents. What does it store? NARA-compliant records. They have a storage space there, 7 million cubic feet. Data centers meeting Federal Information Security Management Act high standards, and specialized storage for various types of records, blah, blah, blah. It's known as the underground. How does it generate billions of dollars? I said, is it a private corporation? And they thought I meant privately owned, but I just meant, is this a non-governmental sort of place? And they said, no, this is actually a publicly owned corporation. It's on the New York Stock Exchange. As of September 30th, 2024, the company's revenue for the last 12 months was $6 billion, 12% year-over-year growth. Amazing. Physical document storage, digital information management services, data protection services, secure information destruction and recycling services. So they are like one of the industry leaders in paper shredding, document shredding, cloud-based digital content management solutions, and asset tracking and inventory management services. They serve a wide range of customers, including 95% of Fortune 1000 companies. Wow. I said, so Meaney is connected to David Rubenstein via NARA and the Council on Foreign Relations, at least. And then they told me that David Rubenstein actually wasn't in the Council on Foreign Relations. And so I had to inquire again. And they said, oh, I apologize for the error. You are correct. I was mistaken. Rubenstein is indeed not only a member of the CFR, he is the chairman as of July 2017. He's been a board member or board director for more than a decade, member and director for more than a decade, and on their global board of advisors. So I asked why it was programmed to that. I said, do they lead the industry in paper shredding? And it gave me a number of other industry leaders. And that was the end of my conversation with the machine. So I went the more traditional route and headed on over to the CIA's own Wikipedia. And down here in Wikipedia, I started learning about their history and where it all comes from, their expansion, their growth. Let me get down to where I need to be. I'll find it again very shortly. The facilities and the holdings. Here we go. Iron Mountain has underground storage facilities in the United States and the rest of the world, but most of the company's over 1,500 storage locations are in above ground leased warehouse space located near customers. Its storage location in Dayton, Massachusetts was once a missile storage battery during the Cold War. Okay. The best known Iron Mountain storage facility is a 1.7 million square foot high security storage facility in a former limestone quarry at Boyers, Pennsylvania, near the city of Butler. Ha! Isn't that the place where Trump went to give a speech in 2020 during that campaign? Massive rally. I think 55,000 people or more. And then it was the location of assassination event number 1 and the location of the return to the scene of the crime, the assassination event number 1 in this campaign. And then that was the rally, of course, where Elon Musk went up and jumped around on stage, and the opera singer, Christopher Macchio, I believe is his name. I hope that's his name. He came out and sang after that rally speech. And during his performance, JD Vance, the non-successor, was down off to the side giving a live, super based and red-pilled interview to, I guess, some people who were around, making sure that there was a final word on the entire rally, not the opera singer that Trump brought to entertain people, but instead the non-successor giving his own performance again to put a final word after Trump's final word at the end. The company also stores the wills of Princess Diana, Charles Dickens, and Charles Darwin. Thank goodness it's in safe hands. Now, I also noticed this about the CEO, a man named William Meaney. This is from Iron Mountain's own website. So here he is, earlier in his career, the CEO of South African vaccine producers, the CIA operations officer mentioned once again, the Council on Foreign Relations, you got it right there, and also on the board of directors of the State Street Corporation. How about all of that? Iron Mountain. What a place. Isn't that all kind of incredible? We are just being given these little hints and secrets. Okay, let us continue, and I'm going to try to go through one more. I'm going to try to do one more segment, and we'll see if I can complete it in a half an hour. If I'm really on my game, maybe I can get it done. I see our Piazza in the chat saying, can't make this crap up. Every time I see that now, the only thing I can think, and no offense, the only thing I can ever think is, yes, they can. And most of this stuff just is made up. That one I don't believe is made up. You might actually be right about that one. You can't make that up because it would require a massive limestone mine. It's incredible. Polymath had a Rumble rant here earlier. I want to make sure that I don't miss that. He said, your subscriber streams are great, but whatever you think, all your content is fantastic, my friend. Thank you very much. $10, Polymath Anon. And he was talking about how to properly organize the subscriber stream with the rest of what the show represents. Thank you, Polymath. I see your comment. Thank you very much. I much appreciate your contributions in my chat and on Truth Social here elsewhere. Thank you. Okay, so where did this article come from? That's not what I meant at all. I definitely saved. How in the world did I get that link there? So there was, hold for processing. I'm going to have to find the correct link here. Trump talked on Friday with the Prime Minister of Japan. And on Saturday, the New York Times published a headline about their discussion concerning rare earth minerals. Or it was maybe a question that he answered in the context or in the kind of press conference portion of the rare earth mineral discussion. And we're just going to go ahead and skip that New York Times article. I think I probably screwed it up in my Telegram post as well. So, hey, let's just go to the new news from yesterday. He did mention that on Saturday with the Japanese Prime Minister. Actually, I copy and pasted the comments. Here's what we have. Trump meeting with Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba on Friday was asked by a reporter if he would help coordinate a meeting between Zelensky and U.S. Vice President, non-successor, JD Vance, who is traveling to Europe for summits in Paris and Munich next week. So he's there now. He spoke before the AI convention yesterday. Everyone agreed that he was super based and red-pilled about all of that. And now he's going to the global communist meetings in Paris and Munich. And the question from the New York Times was, from the mainstream media was, are you going to have JD Vance meet with Volodymyr Zelensky? The New York Times wrote, Trump seemed to mishear the question and responded by saying that he himself will probably be meeting with the comedic actor next week. One of the things we are looking at with President Zelensky is having the security of their assets, he continued. They have assets underground, rare earth and other things, but primarily rare earth. So did Trump actually mishear the question, considering he answered it correctly by saying, I'm going to meet with Zelensky next week, and ignoring the whole suggestion that JD Vance might be tasked with that? And isn't that interesting? Because his predecessor as fake vice president, Kamala, went and met with Zelensky in 2022, just before the very brutal invasion broke out. It's incredible, isn't it? How it's like the whole bullshit story we were fed is the same bullshit story we're being fed now on a different timeline with different characters plugged into those roles. When a reporter asked Trump to clarify if he was in fact the one planning to meet with Zelensky, the president responded, he may meet next week. Yeah, whenever he'd like. That seems pretty straightforward. JD Vance is not going to meet with Volodymyr Zelensky, and maybe he still will. I don't know. I'm not privy to these things. I'm just saying Trump's answer seemed pretty straightforward. There's been no indication since then that JD Vance would take a meeting like that. And Trump already talked to him today. So what does JD Vance need to be there for? It was going to be a photo op to show JD Vance to the rest of the world as the guy doing the piece with Zelensky, in case someone might want to know what happened in 20 years or 50 years or 100 years once David Rubenstein and his friends eliminate the real history and it's replaced with what the mainstream media says. So this is from last night. Sorry, from yesterday during the day. Associated Press, Ukraine's rare earth elements could help keep U.S. military aid flowing. Ukraine has offered to strike a deal with the U.S. President Donald Trump for continued American military aid in exchange for developing Ukraine's mineral industry, which could provide a valuable source of the rare earth elements that are essential for many kinds of technology. Trump said that he wanted such a deal earlier this month, and it was initially proposed last fall by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky as part of his plan to strengthen Kyiv's hand in future negotiations with Moscow. So you can see already how it's being framed. This is an idea Zelensky had, not an idea that Trump had. And it was going on while the fake president Joe Biden was still in place. So when this deal occurs, Donald Trump does not get any of the credit. We really have this big potential in the territory which we control. Andrei Yermak, chief of staff to the Ukrainian president, said in an exclusive interview with the AP. We are interested to work to develop with our partners, first of all, with the United States. Okay? How might a deal come together? They're talking about what minerals might be involved. Rare earth elements are a set of 17 elements that are essential to many kinds of consumer technology, including cell phones, hard drives, and electric and hybrid vehicles. It's unclear if Trump is seeking specific elements in Ukraine, which also has other minerals to offer. It can be lithium. It can be titanium, uranium, many others. Yermak said it's a lot. So the idea here is that as part of the peace deal with Ukraine, or as part of the ongoing war deal, as it was just described by the media, we are going to begin getting rare earth minerals so that when we send all of our military equipment and money over there, we get something back in return. Now, Zelensky says that a lot of the money and the equipment that was promised to them never actually reached Ukraine, and that's totally possible. The Ukraine story about how we're always sending them money might turn out to be total bullshit, or it might be money that we're sending to develop their rare earth mineral industry that was told to us by the media as money being paid to keep this ongoing war against Putin's very brutal invasion going, as we are given similar bullshit stories about the construction project happening down in Israel or in Gaza. So we have construction projects in both places. Trump calls them, he says they look like demolition sites. And then we have the purpose of these construction projects and what they will ultimately end up being. But let's continue. Pete Hegseth is also over there. Now, Keith Kellogg is over there with the group that includes JD Vance and Pete Hegseth. And I think that most people have a pretty good feeling about Keith Kellogg. I certainly do. Some people believe that he's like one of those in the very, very tight circle around Donald Trump. Hegseth says return to Ukraine's pre-war borders is unrealistic. In his first trip abroad, the U.S. Defense Secretary told Ukrainian and NATO officials that a durable peace could only come with a realistic assessment of the battlefield. Okay? And so we've heard, and Trump has reiterated, that Ukraine will not be joining NATO. That is not an option for them. That was already settled before Putin's very brutal invasion. There was no chance of that ever happening. There's no chance that Ukraine is going to be part of the EU either. It seems there's no reason to believe that's going to happen. That was part of Putin's original terms. And the pre-war borders, they're talking about the pre-2014, which means there's no way that Crimea is going back to the global regime. There's no way that Crimea is going to be part of Ukraine. It's only part of Russia. And of course, the Donbass, these eastern regions of quote unquote Ukraine, a fake country, are also part of Russia and have been for years. There's no way that's going to be part of the peace deal. So Pete Hegseth went over there to say things that were already true before Donald Trump ever left office in 2020. Amazing, isn't it? Thank goodness we have a TV character appointed as Secretary of Defense to be able to tell the mainstream media this and to be able to tell the European counterparts this, so that the media can portray this as being something done by JD Vance and Pete Hegseth. Do I know that part, something that nefarious is going on? I can't guarantee it, but it certainly seems to track, and we've been tracking it for an awful long time. So I'm going to go with my instinct and the work I've done. You don't have to agree with me, okay? You can believe whatever you want. This is what I think, and I'm going to defend my position, even when people don't like me doing that. Let's continue. Let's continue with this right here, because I think this right here is amazing while we're on the subject of rare earth minerals. Let me just make sure I'm pulling up the right thing here. Oh no, that was the wrong thing. It's good that I did not do that. Did I send this only to my friends, or did I actually save it so that I could use it on this show? And it seems that I sent it only to my friends. I was saving it for the show because I didn't want to just drop it and ruin what I thought was kind of a fun and surprising connection. Here we are. Hold for processing. We are almost there. Am I furious because I just did something wrong on the computer that I do wrong a lot? Yes, that's exactly what happened. But here we are. It's all cured. Good as new. So I began having a conversation with the machine today about what the heck's going on here? About the rare earth minerals in Ukraine and whether or not that has anything to do with Ukraine's land. That screen share is not going to work, apparently. So we'll go directly to the machine. I'll pull this up. I asked the machine, is Ukraine rich with rare earth minerals? And the machine said yes, and we had a little back and forth. I said, is this because of their flat land? And they let me know that while the rare earth minerals and the flat land are one and the same and totally connected, it's not because of. So one of the characteristics of the Ukrainian shield is its flatness, which is associated with the presence of a peneplain. A peneplain is a nearly level landform that results from prolonged erosion over geological time. The Ukrainian shield, as part of the East European craton, is an uplifted block of Precambrian basement rocks that rises above surrounding plains of younger sediments. Its surface has been shaped into a peneplain due to its geological stability and long-term erosion process. This flatness is typical of shields worldwide, as they are tectonically stable regions where mountain building and faulting are minimal. The flat terrain does not directly cause Ukraine's mineral wealth, but reflects the ancient geological processes that expose the Precambrian rocks, rich in minerals like rare earth elements and other critical resources. So the flatness, I said, is inseparable from the rare earth minerals? And it said yes. And so then we have some more details about the peneplain formation. It says the rocks are rich in rees. Excellent. So if you have heard Donald Trump talk about how flat the land in Ukraine is over these many months, how a bullet can fly and fly and fly, and the only thing that stops a bullet is a body, all of these hints toward the flat land of Ukraine seem to be a direct coded reference to the rare earth minerals in Ukraine. That was one of those little jaw drops as far as I'm concerned. And so people are going through in the chat about some of the geological official story here. All good. Brain Strain again mentions flatland in Ukraine is also wonderful farmland. Yes, we've certainly been hearing that many times over the years. It is some of the most fertile land in all the world. And that's why that plot of land that's called Ukraine, which is the outer regions of Russia, why it's so valuable, because there are so many mineral resources, and the land itself is such good agricultural land. Incredible to me that the flat land in Ukraine, Trump's references to the flatness of this land seem to be, in my mind, directly related to the rare earth minerals. So Donald Trump talked today to Vladimir Putin on the phone, something that Joe Biden, as far as I know, never did. Now, there are reports that Joe Biden might have done it at some point. I can't locate that. I've never been able to locate that. If someone can, maybe it's obvious and I missed it and stopped looking, by all means, send it over and I will retract. But for now, we have Donald Trump on Truth Social. I just had a lengthy and highly productive phone call with President Vladimir Putin of Russia. We discussed Ukraine, the Middle East, energy, artificial intelligence, the power of the dollar, and various other subjects. And I think artificial intelligence and the power of the dollar are inextricably linked via Bitcoin. We both reflected on the great history of our nations and the fact that we fought so successfully together in World War II, remembering that Russia lost tens of millions of people and we likewise lost so many. We each talked about the strengths of our respective nations and the great benefit that we will someday have in working together. But first, as we both agreed, we want to stop the millions of deaths taking place in the war with Russia and Ukraine. And he said Russia/Ukraine. And that's an interesting way to put that because Ukraine is Russia. President Putin even used my very strong campaign motto of common sense. We both believe very strongly in it. We agreed to work together very closely, including visiting each other's nations. We have also agreed to have our respective teams start negotiations immediately, and we will begin by calling President Zelensky of Ukraine to inform him of the conversation, something which I will be doing right now. I have asked Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Director of CIA John Ratcliffe, National Security Advisor Michael Waltz, and Ambassador and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff to lead the negotiations, which I feel strongly will be successful. And worth noting, Steve Witkoff led the negotiations for the so-called hostages down there at the other construction site in Gaza. Millions of people have died in a war that would not have happened if I were president, but it did happen, so it must end. No more lives should be lost. I want to thank President Putin for his time and effort with respect to this call and for the release yesterday of Mark Fogel, a wonderful man that I personally greeted last night at the White House. I believe this effort will lead to a successful conclusion, hopefully soon. Wonderful. So the President of the United States is talking directly to the President of Russia. And they are talking about Russia/Ukraine. He then did speak to the comedic actor. I just spoke to President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine. The conversation went very well. He, like President Putin, wants to make peace. We discussed a variety of topics having to do with the war, but mostly the meeting that is being set up on Friday in Munich, where Vice President JD Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio will lead the delegation. Okay. So is that going to include Vance and Zelensky directly? Quite possibly. It might just be representatives, who knows? I hope that the results of that meeting will be positive. It is time to stop this ridiculous war where there has been massive and totally unnecessary death and destruction. God bless the people of Russia and Ukraine. Okay? So he's now talked to both of them. And as Rumble Me notes in the chat, and I was just about to note, we could have ourselves a perfect phone call between Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky, just as they had prior to the Ukraine impeachment hoax of late 2019. Let us go to the Oval Office today. This is, or will be in just a moment, Donald Trump. I really do hope that at some point next week, all of this will be considerably smoother, as I don't have to wait for my old computer to load other videos and apps. Here we are.
Largely on the phone, and we ultimately expect to meet. In fact, we expect that he'll come here and I'll go there, and we're going to meet also probably in Saudi Arabia. The first time we'll meet in Saudi Arabia, see if we can get something done. But we want to end that war. That war is a disaster.
So they're going to meet in Saudi Arabia. Well, that's interesting because Saudi Arabia is the country that's going to backstop the construction project in Gaza, the regional power. And Mohammed bin Salman sounds like he will be joined by Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. And so you've got three of the most powerful, powerful people in the world getting together to hammer this thing out. Not that there's actually real negotiations that needs to take place, but something interesting will surely be happening there. And you can imagine that there will be a commensurate regime freakout as that occurs. And I think, yep, and then here's just the Badlands Media News article and some links to more information there. This part, as well as part of broader efforts surrounding the war, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is set to travel to Ukraine to ensure the U.S. recoups financial aid sent during the conflict. And this would be maybe money coming back in the form of those rare earth minerals. So a resource deal on top of a construction project is what's happening in Ukraine, and all of that money that we find out was wasted sent over to Ukraine may well just be to set up a resource industry and ship those resources back here or otherwise capitalize on them. Scott Bessent, again, it's worth noting, used to work at Soros Capital Management and has, by virtue of that, some pretty high-level relationships, you might imagine, with key global regime figures. And to the extent that, let me just make sure I'm correct here, Soros Fund Management, yeah. So he's probably got relationships with a lot of the people who flooded all the money into Ukraine after the government was overthrown in 2014, and Soros and other global regime interests began setting up shop in Ukraine, as they do when they have overthrown governments. So Scott Bessent may have some firsthand experience with at least the negotiations here. And, you know, you can take that in a bad way, but I don't necessarily mean it in a bad way. It's entirely possible that people have switched sides. They've seen the light and come to the side of the good and the righteous rather than the evil globalists. And their inside knowledge is being reapplied to this new cause. So no aspersions cast, just fleshing this out in its fullness, as we're supposed to do. So I think somehow I actually made it through all the subjects I wanted to talk about today. And I'm still a few behind from the other day. But one of the great things that happens when you get a few behind is that sometimes they don't matter anymore. Like, for instance, everybody basically understands that the nonsense about the Josh Shapiro role in assassination event #1 was not really worth paying attention to. And you could know that very simply by understanding that assassination event #1 already has a lot of things wrong with it. So if a story comes out that layers on to assassination event #1, the official story within the central narrative actually being true, well, that story layered on is not going to be true. You can just ignore it. And when you're thinking, oh, come on, you can't ignore it without at least looking into it, I promise you that you can, because I do that over and over and over again. And it's not like I'm hiding that I do it. I tell people over and over, that's not worth looking at because it's clearly riding on the back. It's piggybacking onto some foundational bullshit that is obviously wrong. So you don't need to know the upper level bullshit if the foundational bullshit already falls apart. Therefore, ignore that story, move on. You'll be fine without ever knowing about it. Here we are a few days later. Everybody has already agreed that that is the case. And the likelihood of us seeing that Josh Shapiro assassination event story come back up in the future? Very low. Now, is it possible that Josh Shapiro was involved with some assassination event or plot or something with Donald Trump? Sure, but it's not that one. Okay. I guess that's it. I think that is it. And there are some Rumble rants here piling in at the end, so we'll go through these. Polymath Anon, $10. Really interesting show today, my friend. Appreciate it. Thank you very much, Polymath. And another one of the same thing. Maybe you sent those through twice. Please go ahead and check that and cancel one of those if you did. And Snowcat Operator, $5. I'm glad to support your non-network, regardless of public streaming. It's an overwhelming value and an illuminating reflection. Thank you very much, my friend. He just sent another subscription to someone on Rumble as well. If everybody has that view, then fine. I'll try to find something else to do for subscribers. Okay. Maybe people want to have like a Zoom meeting or something once a month. I'm not saying that that's the right idea. I don't know that's the right idea. But if you guys think of creative ideas like that and everybody's like, yeah, this is awesome, let me know. Okay. I want to do something special for subscribers. I also don't want to limit the reach of the show. And this format absolutely does do that. I'm fine with that because you guys make the show possible in the first place. But it's not ideal, I don't think. And we've been doing this now for about 8 months. And so if it's time to switch, then I'm open to switching. Net Walrus also just became a monthly supporter. So thank you very much. This is on Rumble. That's different than the Substack. I don't recommend any of you do that on here, but I'm obviously very appreciative when you do. Someone I saw earlier asked, I think it was Brain Strain again, about whether or not the thumbs up on these videos help. The answer ultimately is yes, but it's mostly no. Okay. I'm not at the point with the size of my show where the thumbs up are going to get me on a leaderboard or anything, but this feed, this exact show will go publicly available on Sunday morning. And then theoretically, at least the thumbs up will help then. So whatever, do what you want. The thumbs up do absolutely help on the public streams. And those public streams are growing every week, which is awesome. So with that, I will see you all on Friday for a public stream at 3 p.m. Eastern. I'll be back on Friday at the same reasonable time on the same reasonable podcast network. I don't have a network. Masks and lockdowns don't work. They lied to you about a pandemic, and Joe Biden was never president.
Well,
what?
You know who I am, don't you?
Well, you ain't Fiona Apple, and if you ain't Fiona Apple, I don't give a rat's ass.
Ah!
And what's wrong with being an angry prophet denouncing the hypocrisies of our times? What do you think, Max?
Do you want to be an angry prophet denouncing the hypocrisies of our times?
Yeah, I think I'd like to be an angry prophet denouncing the hypocrisies of our times.
It's not true. It's more true than I would perhaps prefer.
Down. We do a little trolling. It's called We Do a Little Trolling.
What?
In my mind, that's the end game.
If you're listening for free and would like to support the show, the best way to do that is by signing up for a paid subscription at imyourmoderator.substack.com. You can find the info stream over on Telegram at t.me/veryreasonable. The merch site is cancelcouture.com. And for all my other links, you can visit linktree.com/imyourmoderator. And I'll see you soon down on the range.